You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
Well, here we go. It's a Friday in Jacksonville, Florida. By the time this show ends, it will be 48 hours until kickoff. Or as a play-by-play guy would say, toe meets leather in South Florida at Hard Rock Stadium. Brent Martineau, I'm not play-by-play guy, along with Jason Hamby in here. And we go to Vegas for Austen Lane. You still can't get good Wi-Fi out there? I mean, I like this picture better than your face anyway, but I guess we're just going to hear you again today instead of see you in your PJs.
I mean, Brent, is that the case? Because I feel like the Wi-Fi is pretty good if you want to try it, but I can
yep. Thumbs down.
Some lights here.
Thumbs down, says Hamby. Okay. It's all right. You just sit there in your underwear is fine.
Yeah, man. Sit there extra comfortable. I like it.
Well, by the way, you're not afraid to sit there in your underwear. I mean, you actually perform in your underwear.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the combine in my underwear, essentially. I've been poked and prodded by 32 doctors at the combine in my underwear. I have fought in my underwear. So, yeah, I've done a lot of things in my underwear. I'm not going to say it's the most comfortable thing yet, Brent. You think I'd be accustomed to it by now, but yeah, it's still a little awkward, but at least when I fight though, I can wear shorts with it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you won't be catching me doing the show in my tighty whities. At least seeing me here. Of course, I will say I don't feel like I've worn tighty whities in quite some time. That is for sure. All right, enough underwear talk. Instead, how about some football talk? Here's the deal, okay? I'm staying for just a couple minutes. It's going to be you and Hamby. I'm going to hustle down to the stadium, come back a little bit after 11, but Doug Peterson's talking. I want to get the final stuff out of Jags headquarters. I'm not going to be able to do this all the time, but I'm going to do it today. So you guys are going to take over the show for the next hour, and it's in good hands. I know that. But first, 48 hours away, Jags, Dolphins. There's going to be a lot of hype. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get our picks in. How do we see this season playing out? And I know that we're one game in. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Who's going to be going to the playoffs? All those kind of things today on the show. But how about we start here, Austin? What a game last night. The NFL wins again. They just can't lose. What a game to open the season.
Yeah, listen. You had Taylor Swift looking extra electric last night entering the stadium at Arrowhead, so that they're getting their bump there. We've seen now the NFL, in terms of the touchbacks, have just been more enhanced with this new kickoff rule now. So the touchbacks look even better, Brent. And, it's one of the most cliche things that you can say in football, but it's always the truth. It is a game of inches. And obviously it came down to an inch last night in terms of maybe going to overtime, maybe getting a W, and losing if you're the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, by the way, Patrick Mahomes later after the game, and Hamby, I'm going to bring you in here while I scoot, and you guys can continue to talk about this, but Patrick Mahomes said, hey, man, you should be wearing the white shoes if you want to blend in with the out of bounds. And I'm wondering if he had the white shoes on, if that actually would have been ruled a catch, and would they have been able to overturn it? What do you think, Austin?
Listen, it's something that I've never really thought of before. Being a wide receiver, like a tight end or something like that. But it actually does make some sense. I understand. We have 8K now. We can see everything down to the fine grain. But it does make you wonder if Isaiah Likely last night had white shoes on, if we're talking about that game maybe going to overtime.
Yeah, Austin, I'm going to hop in here. And this was the most interesting thing I thought from, and we can get to the whole game, but on the last two drives, okay, we saw all game how much havoc Chris Jones was wrecking in that football game, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
And on those final two plays, do you know who tried to block Chris Jones?
Hit me with it. Who was it?
Justice Hill. The running back. There was listen, there was not a chip. There was no chip. There was no right tackle. Nothing. He was one-on-one with Justice Hill with the game on the line in the final two plays in the final 10 seconds. How does that happen?
Yeah. Listen, to be honest, the way that Baltimore was blocking last night, Hamby, I don't think it would have mattered in crunch time who was blocking Chris Jones. Now, yes, you don't want to have a running back straight up just try to fill that, to fill the hole and take on Chris Jones, because Chris Jones, as he showed last night, even though he's up there in a little bit of age, is still one of the best interior, defensive linemen in all of football. And I thought last night he kind of exposed Baltimore a little bit. And let me go and ask you this, Andy. What were you more surprised about last night? Baltimore's offensive line and just, not being able to really establish the run game, or Kansas City's explosiveness now with Xavier Worthy, and obviously Rashee Rice has taken another step forward?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Ravens offensive line, because Kansas City, you almost expected, now to some extent it's an unknown just because you haven't seen it, but you almost expected Xavier Worthy to come in and be a plug-and-play explosive guy. And Rashee Rice to take another step forward in his second year. And with Mahomes and all the attention that Kelsey gets, cool. Like, not surprised. But the Ravens offensive line, I mean, you can talk about the illegal procedures. Ronnie Stanley seeking to set the new NFL record for most illegal procedures in the first drive of a football game. Austin, was it just me, or did they abandon the run with Derrick Henry?
Well, no, okay, so first of all, the whole illegal procedure thing, and I remember, I forgot if it was a preseason game, if it was Roger Goodell at a press conference, but I remember hearing something along the lines of, they're really going to crack down this year on illegal procedure. Well, not only did they crack down, they sealed it tight and couldn't let you breathe, because there was like 3 of them in the first drive alone. And
yeah.
I think when you talk about that play of illegal procedure, is one of those where, years ago you could tell the offensive lineman, like, hey, you guys better move up a little bit. You're off the line. Usually you get like 1 gimme. Sometimes, depending on who the ref is, you get 2 gimmies. I remember playing defensive line. There'd be some refs where if you're over the ball, they would actually tell you, hey, 92, move back a little bit, and there would be some refs who wouldn't say anything, and they're going to throw the flag at you. I understand. I guess, like, looking back on it, it was the right call. There was one illegal procedure where I was like, I really don't see it. And if it was there, it's too close to call, I think. And to me, it kind of messed up the flow of the game a little bit. And I thought, John Harbaugh was going to have a heart attack for a couple of those calls. Mm-hmm. But getting back to just the run game, it's wild that I think we all thought the same thing, Hamby. I think we thought that Derrick Henry still has a lot to offer. You put him in Baltimore's offensive line, and he's going to cook. And for that first drive, he gets the touchdown. So it's like, okay, well, here we go. Derrick Henry now has a legit offensive line. This guy's going to be unstoppable, especially with, the threat of Lamar Jackson now as well. You can run the option a little bit. I thought it was going to be a blowout last night for the Ravens, after that first drive.
Oh, right.
And then we saw, okay, this is what happens when you maybe have some younger players, maybe some players that haven't played together a lot, and there's no chemistry and there's no gel, because once again, you saw Chris Jones and company absolutely decimate that Baltimore offensive line for the most part. Now I think Lamar Jackson was only sacked 1 time, and granted, he's a hard dude to sack, but he was constantly under pressure, constantly on the run, constantly trying to scramble. And Hamby, I'll say this much right now. The way that Lamar Jackson was playing last night, like, I respect it, right? Because it was a big game. I think there's a little bit of payback on Baltimore's mind. And you saw that during the press conference after. There's a lot of guys that are pissed off about that game. But Lamar Jackson, I think, has to be smarter, man. Because how many times do we see him lower his shoulder? How many big hits did we see him take? And I get, he lost weight. He feels faster. He feels more mobile. That's great and everything. But can you do that? Can you play like that for 16 games or, 17 games in a season and be healthy? Man, that's asking a lot of him.
Yeah, and especially with that one there was multiple, but that one on the sideline where there was not even really any extra yardage to gain, and he pretty much lowered his helmet right into the guy. I was like, dude, Lamar, like, do you want to play 17 games? Actually, the better question is, Lamar, do you want to play 20 games, because we have a lot more to think about than just this opener here. Not to say that, I'm discrediting him in any way for showing toughness and wanting to, respect, but at the same time, I feel like that, and this is always the conversation. It's almost like that applies to everybody but the quarterback because he's so valuable, and the backup is so much of a drop off that we have to prioritize him playing every down of every game and not 2 yards in the second quarter. I believe that play was, especially that one I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I did want to go back to the illegal procedure real quick with you. It's a play, obviously, that NFL fans know, but they're telling us that it's a bigger point of emphasis this year. And I think for especially Jags fans, we can't help but laugh because we feel that it was our guy who started this all in Jawaan Taylor. And I remember so vividly last opener, the Chiefs and Lions. Lions won that football game, the opener to the 2023 season. That was Jawaan Taylor's first game with the Chiefs after he had played a couple of seasons in Jacksonville. Us Jags fans, we knew this guy's going to line up with his right foot 6 yards in the backfield, and he's going to jump way before the ball is snapped. And we knew he wasn't ever called for it in Jacksonville. As soon as he gets to Kansas City, that first game against the Lions last year, he must have got called on it 3 or 4 times. And all of us are just laughing. It's like, man, did we get done a favor here because we're not the Chiefs and we don't have these eyes on us? It was just this thing, and I guess now Ronnie Stanley is biting the bullet for it.
Well, right, and we're talking about an all pro here in Ronnie Stanley. I mean, this guy's been playing that position for a long time, so he should kind of know a little better, I feel like. But here's the fact of the matter, Casey, and Brent and I talked about this earlier in the week. Since I played back in 2010, there's always been great edge rushers. There's always been great interior rushers as well. But when we talk about how much the game has evolved in terms of athleticism, speed, and strength from defensive linemen, I feel like O-line hasn't kept up. Mm-hmm. Back when I played, there's guys like Joe Thomas who were essentially unstoppable, right? Just cerebral assassins, knew how to pass set, knew to always keep you guessing. And I've told this story many times before. Why I consider Joe Thomas probably the best tackle I ever played against was because you never knew what he was going to do. There's most tackles out there that, 1, 2, 3 hands, right? I mean, that's a basic pass set. Any Pop Warner coach will tell you that. You take 3 kickbacks, then you engage as a pass rusher, and then you work from there. With Joe Thomas, it could be 1, 2, 3, engage, or sometimes you just go 1 and pop you off the line of scrimmage and surprise you. So now it's almost like he's like a pitcher handy where he's in the back of your mind, okay, is the fastball coming? Is the changeup coming? Is the slider coming? Will it hit you on 2 steps? Will it hit you on 3 steps? And that was just kind of the mental game that Joe Thomas played. Now, when we fast forward to the modern NFL, there's still some great offensive tackles out there. Don't get me wrong. But when you got edge rushers now, like Josh, Hines Allen, when you got guys like TJ Watt, the Bosa brothers and everything, it just makes that so much harder. And this is where that rule has come into play, where if you're Jawaan Taylor, if you're Staley, you're trying to get literally pun intended, a leg up and trying to, help yourself with the speed rush and help yourself with, getting knocked off balance. So I guess this had to happen with the refs cracking down on it, but you got to ask yourself, how much do you have to crack down on it? Because there was, I think it was the second call or the third one on Staley, where it was man, it's debatable if he was really, off the line of scrimmage. And if that's the case, and we're talking about, is it debatable? Then don't call it.
Sure. Yeah, let's
don't call it.
Yeah. I want to get back to the point you made right away or the question that you posed right away is how surprised was I that Xavier Worthy made that big of an impact right away. We saw on the jet sweep or the double reverse, whatever you want to call it, Mahomes flips it back to him. The guy it was on the 25-yard line. The guy seemed like he was in the end zone in less than a second. And the question that all Jags fans are hoping now is, okay, they say Xavier Worthy. I mean, we know that Xavier Worthy is the fastest player on that football team because he ran 4.2 something at the combine, set the record.
Yeah.
Can Brian Thomas Jr. have a similar effect, immediate impact for the Jaguars in the same way that Worthy had for the Kansas City Chiefs?
I mean, it's a good question. So let me start out by saying this, Hamby. I thought last night was once again a showcase of two teams that draft not necessarily based on what the experts necessarily say. They draft on who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get to Kansas City, let me start with Baltimore. Baltimore has always had an MO, right? They like to pound the rock, but they also like to use the tight ends. Okay. Mark Andrews, you know, they draft him. I think that was maybe Hayden Hurst year as well. So they draft two tight ends the same year. And Mark Andrews ends up, you know, shining and becomes the guy. Mm-hmm. Well, then they get another guy where you didn't really have to draft another guy. You got Mark Andrews, but then you have a guy, Isaiah Likely, who, you know, a little smaller, a little more like an Evan Ingram type, let's just say, but obviously had kind of a coming out party. Not to say he hasn't been shining before, but I thought last night was really the coming out party of Isaiah Likely. And Mark Andrews is almost like an afterthought. And this is what Baltimore has always done. They've always put a premium on the tight end position. And last night, Isaiah Likely was just another example of a guy who could be a star for years and years to come using him. And much to fantasy owners' dismay, Mark Andrews wasn't used that much. Now, if we go to Kansas City and their MO, it's always been the same thing. And this happened even when I was coming out in 2010 and Andy Reid was the first year coach in Kansas City. They drafted a guy by the name of Dexter McCluster, who was undersized, kind of a gadget guy out of Ole Miss. Now, he had an okay career. You know, he ended up not being, he wasn't a Pro Bowl or anything, but that's the type of guy that Andy Reid's always been drawn to. It's these maybe a little on the smaller side. Maybe they don't have all the intangibles of a great wide receiver, but they can have speed. You know, and I think last year they got Rashee Rice, and this was a guy who ran, I think, like a 4 or 5. So speed wasn't necessarily his thing, but obviously he's a lot faster in football than he is in a 40-yard dash. You saw a team, you know, take a risk on, and you know, they didn't draft him, but like traded for Kadarius Toney, who they saw potential in terms of the gadget stuff. Well, it doesn't work out. There's fumbles and everything, and then there's miscues, and Kadarius Toney doesn't work out in Kansas City. Okay, great. Well, then what do? They get a guy in Xavier Worthy who can he run the route tree? You know, there's questions of, you know, is he a complete receiver? But there's not questions of this guy is an absolute speed demon. And you saw that utilized last night, whether it was Rashee Rice, whether it was Xavier Worthy, just these quick slants that we've always seen Hampy. Now, you still have Travis Kelce, and he kind of had a quiet game and everything. But to me, it just shows that this is the type of player that Andy Reid wants. He wants the speed. He wants to get these guys in space, and he wants them to turn loose. And I hope that Jacksonville, and listen, Jacksonville's, like, I'm not worried at all with the receivers. Obviously, you have the tight end, you have the running back. But I hope the conversation 5, even 10 years from now, Hamby, is like, okay, this guy in this draft is like a Jaguars fit. He's a Jaguars guy, right? Because it seems like when the Jaguars draft somebody, sometimes there's been no rhyme or reason why they got him or like what that means. Now, they needed a wide receiver, and Brian Thomas Jr. with the speed and everything could be that guy. But I hope we're talking down the line a little bit where it's going to be like, okay, this guy in the draft out of wherever, this guy's a Jaguars guy.
Right.
They should get him.
Yeah, I think it's.
But
go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry. But I guess like the biggest question though is, I mean, were you a little surprised how, I guess, because keep in mind, we're talking about Rashee Rice. It's been a rough offseason for him. We're talking about Xavier Worthy, a rookie. You know, Travis Kelce's in Argentina, dancing with Taylor Swift. Like, there's a lot of stuff happening this offseason. But were you surprised just how gelled and how locked in it seemed like the Kansas City Chiefs were week 1?
I mean, honestly, not at all. I mean, it's just like, I mean, the last thing I want to do is gas Kansas City because they get it enough. And I know that people are tired of it. But at the same time, you got to give it to them because they deserve it. It's just like kind of that balance of, we kind of are tired of talking about how good they are. I mean, shoot, that's all we talked about seemingly in the last 2 years, or even the last 5 years if you go back to their first run. But they deserve it at the end of the day. And with the drafting of Xavier Worthy, like, I bet you Kansas City fans are just so unbelievably not shocked that Xavier Worthy is good. It's like as soon as they draft him, they're like, oh, yep, he's going to be an immediate impact player. He's going to score 8 touchdowns for us this year. He's going to, be a guy that we can go to on third down. Rashee Rice is going to be fine. He's going to be making steps forward. It's just like what they do because you trust the two guys that make them do what they do, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I'm so with that is like the next echelon for the Jaguars to know, okay, on draft day, we know that this guy is going to be a good football player for us because we're slotting him into a machine that already exists. That's plug and play.
Yeah.
And you did mention real quick, much to the chagrin of fantasy football owners, Mark Andrews looked like just another tackle on the Ravens offensive line. I want to know, as of 10:23 on this Friday morning, have you submitted your waiver request, your waiver claim for Isaiah Likely?
I mean, if you haven't, you're definitely behind the game. Like obviously Mark Andrews last year, he was banged up. He had I think he had a pretty serious injury that he was out for a while. But I think expectations were that he was 100%. He's going to pick up right where he left off before he got hurt and everything. And it seemed to be more of the Isaiah Likely show. And listen, on that one long run that he had for the touchdown, and obviously an inch away from having another one, I mean, when guys make plays like that, Hamby, you have to keep giving them the ball. It's simple as that. You just don't go, hey, that was a nice, 40, 50-yard touchdown. Right. We're not going to throw you the ball anymore. So, like, expect his reps to go up and probably expect Mark Andrews to be a little more of a glorified offensive tackle until the time being. When we talk about Kansas City, and you brought up a great point. I see the points in the chat as well. I mean, it's a well-oiled machine essentially that, got an upgrade. And it's a lot like, and I think it's even a more like enhanced version. But like when you think of like the New England Patriots and what they had at their disposal wide receiver, like a lot of their receivers, you'd put them on other teams and like they wouldn't really knock your socks off, right? Like Julian Edelman, he's a great receiver, but like if he was a one, like on the Tennessee Titans back in the day, like how good would he have been? Or like Danny Amendola. I mean, obviously Gronk is just a different dude and would have been a beast forever, but it just felt like all those guys fit the system.
Right.
And it also helps when you have the GOAT at quarterback. And it's really comparable to what you see now. It really goes to show you, Hamby, of when you have the quarterback, when you have the franchise guy who's that talented, it doesn't really matter who you throw back there, you're going to have success. And I remember watching Ed Reed. This is a couple days ago. Ed Reed was on the NFL Network, and he was talking about how you beat Patrick Mahomes. Now, this is Ed Reed. Now, keep in mind, this is Ravens Ed Reed, right? So maybe there's a little hostility towards the Kansas City Chiefs and everything. But Ed Reed was saying how it's simple because Patrick Mahomes always has his go-to guys. He always likes his guys in certain situations. And you just key on that, and you can beat him. So then I'm thinking last night where it's like, okay, well, Travis Kelce's still a thing. So, like, he's got to be the go-to guy. Well, no. It seemed like first series, Rashee Rice was the go-to guy. Then Xavier Worthy was the go-to guy. And then when it was, third or whatever, then Travis Kelce made a play. Now, I have Travis Kelce in fantasy. Do more. Gonna need you to do more, Travis, okay? Especially when your girlfriend's in the building. Gonna need you to at least get a touchdown. Gonna need more than 3 receptions, please. Travis, please, because I didn't get Kyle Pitts for a reason, and I'm already regretting it.
No, you're
Even
not.
though he's got a hamstring issue. No, I'm not, because Kyle Pitts has a hamstring issue, so I may have dodged the bullet there. But it's dangerous, though, Jason, because you have these weapons now where he doesn't seem to have a favorite target. Like, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens, and Kelsey was kind of non-existent.
Yeah.
So, like, what does that say about this team where you have, one of the best, if not the best tight end of all time, has a mediocre game at best, and they don't even skip a beat?
Yeah. Shoot, man. Well, I mean, the thing that for sure is that the NFL didn't miss. For that game to come down to an inch, it was insane. We will have more on the NFL opener when we come back. We're also going to go. Brent sat down one-on-one with Trevor Lawrence. We will play a clip for you, a portion of that after the break. You'll also hear from Foye Oluokun a little bit later in today's show from when he was on All Access with Brent last night. Very interesting what he had to say in response to the question if he was moving positions, how that would impact what his focus was or it will be this season. So that will be when we come back. And don't forget, Friday Night Zone Blitz tonight, 8 o'clock, 4 hours, live coverage on the Access Sports Jacks 24/7 network. We'll have live game look-ins from games across our area. I know I'll be down at Nice, and I'll be at Toccoa Creek tonight. So looking forward to that. Instant reaction, 8 p.m. to midnight. So stay tuned for that. We will be right back on the Brent Austen Show.
Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.
When I say it means something to me, gentlemen, it means something to me.
High school football is back, and it's bigger than ever. Welcome to the Friday Night Zone Blitz.
It is bigger than a game.
Watch the biggest games each week live as the action unfolds with instant reaction and analysis from our Hall of Famer, Kevin Sullivan. It starts with live look-ins at the top matchups, including our Jaguars Prep Whataburger Game of the Week, and that is just the beginning of 4 straight hours of coverage. From 8 to 10:30, the Friday Night Zone Blitz is streaming on our Action News Jacks app and online. At 10:30, the Friday Night Blitz you know and love. A half hour of highlights from around the area. 11 o'clock, we shine the spotlight on the bands that pump up the crowd. 11:15, it's time to blitz through the highlights online and on air. Then 11:35, back to the stream to break down the night's results with a reaction from local coaches. 4 straight hours of high school football on the Friday Night Zone Blitz. Only on Action Sports Jacks 24/7.
Nobody but Nimnicht. Our family has purchased 6 vehicles from Nimnicht Buick GMC. The #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville has lots of inventory to choose from with their best price guarantee. Who gives you top dollar for your trade? Nobody but Nimnicht. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierras or get rates as low as 1.9%. You know I'm a truck guy. GMC Sierra, my trim level is an SLT. This one's an Elevation. Pretty good looking color as well. So here at Nimnicht Buick GMC, you have a lot to pick from. My father-in-law, he drives this, an Enclave, so we like that GMC in the family. 2025 is coming around the corner, which means it's almost time to close out those 2024s this summer. You can schedule a test drive at NimnichtBuickGMC.com, and while you're there, check your trade value and customize your payment options. Nimnicht is there for you, even on Sundays. So, who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? The answer's simple. Nobody but Nimnicht. Your friends in the car business since 1941. GMC, we are professional grade.
It's hard to put a price on comfort, especially when you use that comfort on a daily basis. But if we're going to put a price on it, how does the lowest price guaranteed sound? Furniture Source is going to have the biggest brands, whether it's Ashley, Casper, or Tempur-Pedic, and once again, it's going to be the guaranteed lowest price in Jacksonville. Right now, my friends at Furniture Source are going to give you the ultimate hookup because all month long, they're making their inventory wholesale price. Check out their markdowns up to 50% off. And remember, since it's Furniture Source, you're getting the guaranteed lowest prices in Florida or your money back. Don't have the cash on you right now? It's no worry. Shop endless options to suit your style and budget and enjoy 36 months off with no interest financing. Why use your money when you can use theirs? Whether it's beds, couches, tables, or chairs, Furniture Source is going to have exactly what you're looking for. Shop the lowest prices in Jacksonville guaranteed. Find the location nearest you at FurnitureSourceJacks.com.
It's a new logo, new branding. With Bold City Heating and Air, it's an old school approach. One of the few locally owned and operated air conditioning businesses left in Jacksonville. It's hot, Florida in the summer. You can't do much to avoid it, but you can keep cool with Bold City Heating and Air. It's every customer counts kind of service, from when these trucks have pulled up to my home over the last couple of years and when they pull into your driveway as well. From communication to pricing to the actual service, everyone at Bold City Heating and Air cares about you. You know who is coming to your house. You know they will be well trained and they will respect your home. Air conditioning convenience at boldcityac.com. Stay cool while it gets hot. Bold City Heating and Air can help. Don't get caught sweating all summer. boldcityac.com, and they have financing to help. New systems starting at $110 a month and $50 off any repairs. Stay safe, stay comfortable with Bold City Heating and Air at boldcityac.com. Homegrown in your hometown.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show. You're looking at Miami, the Hard Rock Stadium down there. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be heading down there, I believe, today. We're about 50 hours away from kickoff of the 2024 season. We got Austen Lane. We got Jason Hamby. Brent down at Everbank Stadium right now. He will rejoin us here in just a little bit. We are going to hear from Trevor Lawrence in a little bit, but Austin, I want to start with Tua, and this was my big question for you specifically today. Tua is, and I'm trying to rack my brain. I should have calculated this ahead of time now that I think about it. I believe is the only left-handed starting quarterback in the NFL. I'm going through.
Oh, that's a good call.
I believe he's the only starting left-handed quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? How does that change anything and go back to your playing days? Any left-handers that stuck out of how specifically the D-line, kind of how that changes for them? Are they going to play matchups differently because of that? What will that look like this Sunday?
Yeah, it's a good point. That probably doesn't get talked enough about, Hamby. When left-handed quarterbacks stick out to me, I mean, the one that we went against that to me was above and beyond anybody else was Mike Vick. But like Mike Vick, the game planning for a Mike Vick game was different just because, he's a left-handed quarterback, but obviously the mobility as well. You kind of had to stay at home. You couldn't really run too many twists, too many games, because the last thing you wanted to give Mike Vick was any type of hole to kind of do his thing a little bit. But when you talk about left-handed quarterbacks, it is different, because obviously the blind side's on the opposite side. So usually the way that it works, and depending who your pass rushers are. Now, I'm very curious to see with Joshua Hines-Allen if they actually move him up on the other side. Do you put him? I mean, I guess he's on the left a lot too, but do you put him on the back side? Is basically what I'm trying to get at here, because he's your best pass rusher. Like Trayvon Walker has made strides, obviously, but usually the way that it works is that you give your best pass rusher first dibs, right? So you go to him and be like, hey, do you feel comfortable rushing from the blind side? Do you see on film, do you see a guy that you could probably beat more and more? And I haven't been super in depth in the Dolphins offensive line. I'm not sure who the weakest link of the Dolphins offensive line is, but one would expect that even more, Hamby, I think, than lining up on the blind side or, his front side. I think it's going to come down to matchups in terms of who's the weakest offensive line and who can you expose there. But it does make a drastic difference. I mean, number one, the ball's coming out differently. So receivers, it's different. And, I've always been kind of curious because I'm not sure who even the backup quarterback is in Miami. But, I wonder, if you have Tua, and, let's knock on wood, hopefully he stays healthy and everything. You don't want to see anybody get hurt. But, I wonder if there's a benefit, though, if you have a starting left-handed quarterback, if your backup should be left-handed as well.
Skylar Thompson.
To me, going from Skylar Thompson, do we know is Skylar Thompson left-handed or right-handed?
He's right-handed. I believe he was Kansas State back in the day. Yeah, Kansas State. He's jumped around on a couple different teams. He hasn't looked bad in preseason for a couple seasons, but never really gotten any starts.
Yeah. So, I think there's something to be said for when, your backup quarterback's a righty compared to your starting quarterback that's a lefty. I mean, I play on the defensive side of the ball, so maybe as a receiver, it's not that big of a deal. But I just think, the way that you set your fronts, the way that you have to pick up blitzes and everything, it makes a big deal being a lefty in Tua.
And the other part of this that perhaps maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't think has been going around enough is this is for both of these fan bases, this is the first time they will be watching their quarterbacks since they got absolute bags. Okay. And both fan bases aren't going to be judging the success of the contract and the deal based off of this first game. We know that. But at the same time, this is the first time we're seeing Trevor play an actual meaningful football game since he just got an unbelievable amount of money. It's the same for Miami. So I feel like there is, I don't know, I feel like there could be in the back of their heads, at least for the fan bases, of, hey, yeah, we understand this is the first game, but there's a little added pressure now that we've paid you all this money. We don't really want to wait around and see where we are after week 2, week 3. We want to start fast.
Hamby, let me ask you this, and it's a great point. Now you have quarterbacks that have essentially reset the market. Trevor Lawrence, I'm trying to think on an average a year basis now, he's tied for, he's tied for first, but there's 3 guys. I'm pretty sure Jordan Love is making the same amount of money a year, and then so is Joe Burrow. And then Tua should be right under him because he's making $53 million a year. So I think that puts him at 4th, even though the total value wasn't as high. I mean, Tua's still making $53 million a year. So he's the 4th highest paid quarterback on a yearly basis. Who has more pressure? Who has more pressure? I mean, keep in mind, they both have pressure. But who has more pressure with their new contract now to deliver and be a top 5 quarterback?
I mean, I still think that it's Trevor Lawrence because Tua, as good as he is and as good as he was in college, was not talked about as the prospect that Trevor Lawrence was. He just wasn't. He was supposed to be great, but he was not talked about. Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, we all know the story. Trevor Lawrence was. And as the number 1 overall pick, everybody still has that expectation. I know that he's entering his 4th year. It doesn't matter. That still lingers. And I got to say that Trevor has more pressure on him to be the guy and to take their team to the promised land than Tua does. You see things the same way?
Yeah, see, here's the thing. I mean, you can make an argument for both cases, and I hate to be on the fence here a little bit. I do agree there's the pressure on Trevor because, a lot of people want to call him generational, the savior, and all this stuff. And yeah, he has taken the Jaguars on one, playoff run and everything. But I think that the collective would say that, there's still room for improvement. There's still room for growth. I think when you look at Tua, he was pretty coveted out of college as well. But you look at who Tua plays with and the system that he's in. And you've never heard any conversations about, Tua being a top 5 quarterback. And I almost feel like when these new contracts got presented, I felt like even maybe Tua got a little more hate than Trevor Lawrence did. Now, maybe it's because, we live in Jacksonville and everything, but I was a little surprised how, and there was some, pundits, but I was surprised how they almost embraced the Trevor Lawrence contract. Like, now, once again, there's a couple haters out there, as there's going to be, but when you look at his numbers, I was kind of surprised. Like, oh yeah, people, yeah, he's a franchise quarterback. That's what they pay. Like, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to say, like, oh, you're gonna pay Trevor Lawrence this much money, and you got guys like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen making less. Like, I thought that was going to be the narrative, and it really wasn't. And I think Tua even got more of that narrative than just saying, like, man, are you even a top 10 quarterback, or are you a product of the system that you play in? You play with maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL. You play with one of the best offensive minds in McDaniel. So to me, I almost say there's more pressure on Tua because he's set up for success. You know, like, you get the sense that you can put a lot of quarterbacks in that system with McDaniel and have success. I can't say the same about putting the quarterbacks in this Jacksonville Jaguars system right now until we see more, but like, it hasn't been a consistent thing. So I almost wonder if there's more pressure on Tua now.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point of the supporting cast and how big a role that plays. Specifically for Trevor going into Sunday's game, I know we've talked about it a lot, especially yesterday, the Jalen Ramsey injury, the hamstring that's held him out of the last couple practices. You know, we've heard from Doug a little bit. I believe he was asked about it. And, you know, any time that a coach is asked about how big of an impact an injury to an opposing player is, they're always going to say the same thing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they're going to say, doesn't matter, still got to execute, still got to, you know, do what we're focused on us. That's bull. I mean, and it's not a knock on any of these coaches, especially not on Doug. It's what they're supposed to say. But there's no chance that the game plan doesn't change if it's Jalen out there versus this Bonner, I believe is his last name. By the way, if he starts, would be the only white corner starting in the NFL this Sunday. Just throwing this out. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there.
Well, yeah, isn't the
DeJean?
The Eagles dude not going to go? Yeah.
I don't think he's starting, and I think they're going to play him a little bit more at safety. But on the outside, it is just Bonner. If Jalen Ramsey doesn't go, but isn't it just like do the coaches expect us to believe them when they say that the game plan doesn't change and still got to execute all this stuff, whether it's Jalen or the backup?
No, listen, I mean, Jalen didn't practice yesterday, and I guarantee right now, even though he's an offensive-minded guy, Mike McDaniel is you know, he's saying his prayers, he's talking to the football gods and hoping that Jalen Ramsey comes back. And yeah, Hamby, I think you're right. When we talk about how coaches don't want to sound panicked, and this is really coaching 101 here, Hamby. You know, a lot goes into it with culture building and everything, but one of the most important jobs as a coach is you never let your guys get too high or too low. You keep them consistent, right? And the last thing you want to do if you're the Dolphins and you're McDaniel is come out and be like, well, if Jalen Ramsey's out, I'll be honest, our defense is kind of screwed because he's a really good player and we really need him to lock down Brian Thomas Jr. or somebody else. And if we're going to lose him, yeah, I have zero confidence in this defense. We're going to have a white cornerback, first one since Jason Sehorn, go out there and try to cover, you know, Brian Thomas Jr. You're not going to say that, right? You have to come across to your guys that, okay, so Jalen's out, next man up. I mean, I remember my very first career start. So my rookie year, it's got to be like week 5 or week 6. And, you know, the guy that was playing ahead of me was Derek Harvey. And you know, if you know anything about Derek Harvey, a first-round pick, gave up a lot of draft capital to get him from the Baltimore Ravens. And, you know, a great guy, but a lot of people would say just didn't work out here in Jacksonville. Like in terms of what you gave up to get him, in terms of the production, it just didn't work out. And, you know, he was kind of out of the league a couple years later. Well, we're in Dallas, and it's literally Saturday. And I'm sorry, no, yeah, it's Saturday. And right now, I'm not even suited up, right? Like I'm not, like I'm one of the inactives, they call it. And then Sunday morning comes around, and just Mel Tucker, our defensive coordinator, comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, Austin, Harvey's down, you're starting.
Mm.
So like, I go from the night before thinking, okay, I'm just going to stay on the sidelines in my street clothes, just hanging out, to Sunday morning going to the stadium, and now I'm starting. Like, could have let me know the night before, but it's all good. But
Right.
like, this was kind of the energy that, Mel Tucker was giving me, where it's like, you're starting now. You're the guy if you make mistakes. And I can't repeat what he said to me full-heartedly, but it was something along the lines of, if you're going to crap yourself, crap at doing 100 miles per hour. And that was that. And it wasn't like a panic. It wasn't just like, yeah, okay, you're starting now. And I guess like maybe I did appreciate how he handled that situation, Hamby, because if you would have told me the night before, yeah, I would have been up all night like, holy crap, my first start in Dallas, like zero sleep. But I slept thinking I'm not going to play. No, I still prepared and everything, right?
Sure.
I still went through my playbook, still went through my notes, because that's what a professional does. But it wasn't until the morning before where I decided, like, hey, yeah, I'm starting. So like, that's what any great coach does, Hamby, is they have to regulate their guys and be like, doesn't matter who's playing, we're confident in your abilities. And this happens through injuries. This happens through when guys aren't playing well and you have to put another guy in. It's all about just maintaining that sense of calm, and knowing like, hey guys, regardless of what happens, I still got it.
Well, speaking of Jalen Ramsey, this is breaking news from Schefter and Rappaport. The Dolphins and All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey have agreed on another huge extension, this time a 3-year, $72.3 million deal to make him the highest-paid cornerback in the NFL again. The $24.1 per year $1 million deal per year, negotiated by David Mulligetta. Not exactly sure how to say his name, but I know he's secured a lot of big contracts.
That was good.
But yeah, I mean, speaking of, we're talking about him, and Jalen gets a huge deal once again, becoming the highest paid corner in the league. Your thoughts?
Okay. Well, first of all, I mean, didn't see that coming, on a Friday morning here. So let me ask you this: do you think the hamstring's actually a real thing, or do you think this was him just kind of sitting out wanting to get a new contract, and now we're going to see Jalen Ramsey full go in practice today?
I guess I have no idea, because if he's a full go, then I'm going to start to question things.
Is the hamstring the new like back problem here? Like, damn, that's crazy to me. And I'm just trying to think, like, once again, it must not be that serious, Hamby, honestly, because like usually hamstring injuries, they can linger, like they can last a whole season. And let me ask you this: if you're a GM, are you going to pay a guy 3 years, $72 million starting, this year, if he's not going to be consistently playing because he has a bad hamstring?
No shot.
No, I have a hard time investing in that. So, I mean, like, listen, more power to him. I love when players get paid. One of the best cornerbacks in the league, despite what you think about him. Congratulations on making the money. But I'm going to be honest, it makes me a little more nervous now, because that's an indication of, okay, well, maybe this hamstring isn't that big of a deal, and then maybe we see him on Sunday.
I mean, I think I now that I'm having a little bit of time to process it, it does make sense that they would not pay him knowing that he wasn't 100% healthy, or that he wouldn't be 100% healthy.
Yeah, there's no way that's a bad investment if you do.
Right. Sorry about that. And just because of all of the time that they've had to potentially negotiate this new contract, they've had all the time in the world to get this deal done if they wanted to get a deal done. And why would they do it now? 2 days before the opener.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I didn't know he was even like slated for a new contract like that. The timing, the whole hamstring thing, just a lot of peculiar things. But like, once again, if I take anything away from it, I mean, I take a couple things away from it. Okay, so you had Patrick Surtain kind of reset the market a little bit. Patrick Surtain, one of the best corners in the league. I wonder if Jalen got word of that, is like, well, if he's getting this much, that is there to get this. I mean, there's some to be said for that. But once again, I think going back to an important storyline that we were talking about the entire week of the hamstring, I feel like if you're going to invest that much money in a guy, reset the market once again, make him the highest paid cornerback, he's going to have to be healthy and he's going to have to be playing.
Yeah.
So maybe this is an indication that we will see Jalen Ramsey week 1 against the Jaguars, or do they just think, hey, we're not worried about the Jaguars at all. We can rest him this game, then we'll bring him back week 2, because obviously that could be a very dangerous scenario there for the Miami Dolphins.
Well, that was the weird thing I believe I saw yesterday, and I don't know exactly who to attribute this to, but I believe I saw something from it's coming out of Miami where someone said, hey, we have to keep in mind that we have 2 games in 5 days here because they play Thursday night against the Bills next week.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, shoot. I mean, that makes me more confident that he could be on limited snaps at the very least against the Jacksonville Jaguars this Sunday, just because they know that, if we trot him out there for every snap, then not only are we potentially hampering him or at risk to re-injure that in the last multiple weeks, but that kind of could halt any momentum for him playing Thursday night in a divisional game. And obviously all games matter, but divisional games matter a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does make you wonder a little bit, are the Dolphins kind of overlooking the Jaguars just because I feel like to them, the Bills are a bigger game? It's a possibility. Do you err on the side of caution? Like, listen, if I'm the Dolphins, and regardless of how much money I just gave my top cornerback, if there's even a hint of a soft tissue injury and I have 2 games back to back, I'm just going to let him rest the first game. That's what I would do, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. And listen, if the Jaguars go out there and beat the Miami Dolphins, are we celebrating? Absolutely. Are we in the streets rioting? Possibly. Are we calling Trevor Lawrence the GOAT? Maybe. Is Brian Thomas Jr. going to be a fantasy darling? I hope so. But it's just one game. It's one game of 17. And we live in a week-to-week basis. We live in a recency bias, and I understand all of that. But I can't put that much stake into week 1 because, well, you really don't know who teams are yet, right? So, once again, if I'm the Dolphins and there's any inkling of a soft tissue injury, I would rest Jalen Ramsey, regardless of how much I just paid him. Now, if Jalen Ramsey goes out there as a full speed and, locks up one of the Jaguars receivers, then I'm going to say, okay, well then this whole behind the scenes thing with the hamstring injury must have just been a ploy. The same story that we saw here back with the back injury where he wanted out or he wanted to get paid or whatever the case may have been. It's just, it's going to be another chapter in the saga that is Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, Jalen Ramsey, 29 years old. I'm trying to think about this type of a monster deal for a guy that's already 29 years old and how many times we've seen that recently, and kind of drawing a blank as far as that kind of a deal. I mean, 29 is obviously not that old, but guy's played a lot of football.
Yeah.
And to give him $72 million, it would be one thing if it was a 5-year deal. This is only 3, but man, I can't believe we get this 50 hours away from kickoff, and I know, and especially because it wasn't like we heard, oh, Jalen Ramsey wants a new contract. We didn't even hear that.
Yeah, I mean, this just goes to show you, Hamby. It's wild how we talk about the market of some positions, right? And we're still to the point now where edge rusher is a premium. Look what you just paid Josh Hines-Allen. Look what Brian Burns got paid, and he had like half the productivity of Josh Hines-Allen last year. Now look what Jalen Ramsey is making. Look what Patrick Surtain's making. Like it's wild how much the game evolves and everything, but you still have the wide receiver position, which is highly coveted. You still have a running back position that, well, no one really cares about. So you're making minimum wage essentially in the NFL. And then you have the cornerback and edge rushing position, which are top dollar. Camby, let me go and ask you this. If you're a GM and you're going to shell out, these millions of dollars and try to reset the market and take the quarterback off the table, because we understand, it's the quarterback.
Right.
If you were to rank wide receiver, cornerback, edge rusher in terms of guys getting paid, guys resetting the market, where are you going to lean your money towards? Are you spending on the receiver first? Are you spending on the edge rusher first? Are you going to spend on the cornerback first, and then put those in order in terms of most importance to you being the GM?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go a different way than what I believe would be the consensus amongst GMs in today's NFL.
Okay.
And I'm gonna rank receiver last of those three positions. I do not believe that would be the case based off of what we've seen with receiver contracts, especially this offseason for most general managers. But I'm going to put edge at first priority, corner second priority, and receiver third. And I'm putting receiver third just because, look at what and this is obviously going to be remaining to be seen, but look at what the Chargers did. They got rid of all their big contracts, and their number one receiver is going to be Ladd McConkey, a rookie. Even the Chiefs last night, you plug and play to Xavier Worthy, and I know that does not work for every team. I'm not trying to say that it does, but it seems like there is a higher chance that you can plug and play a receiver if you have the quarterback than plugging and playing any kind of an edge rusher. Like those guys, because a lot of times a receiver's only going to be as good as his quarterback. How many times have we seen guys with amazing talent, not make a big time impact on the football game because their quarterback can't get him the football? Look at DJ Moore last year with Chicago Bears. Just turn on his film, how many times he was wide open, and the football was nowhere in his vicinity. Okay, his impact is limited.
I mean, Garrett. Well, you have one of the best wide receivers, one of the best young wide receivers, and Garrett Wilson. And obviously, when Aaron Rodgers goes down, he's kind of an afterthought. Even though he did still have a lot of receptions and everything, but no one was talking about him in fantasy relevancy just because you had Zach Wilson throwing the football and it didn't work out that well.
Yeah, absolutely. Even Pickens. Even Devontae Adams at times with Las Vegas. It's just you have to have that quarterback first. And if your quarterback is good, then there's a lot of options that you can do to get production from the wide receiver position without shelling out $30 million a year. However, I believe that edge rusher, they depend on less. It's more individual in a sense. Yes, obviously they gain a lot when there's interior push, when there's a guy on the other side of the edge pushing the quarterback their direction, putting him in the quarterback in his lap for the layup sack. But it seems a lot more individual. They depend on less, and there's less guys. There's less dudes at edge than there are at corner and at receiver.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you here a little bit for sure. When you think about the wide receiver position, to me, it's the most deep in terms of great to elite talent. We saw this last night with Isaiah Likely. Likely came out. Dude came out of nowhere, and now all of a sudden it's okay, you're kind of the dude now a little bit. You can get, whether it's tight ends or wide receivers, Xavier Worthy obviously too, but I think there is probably the most depth at wide receiver. So when I see a top guy like Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill, and granted, they're a step above everybody else, but when's the last time you paid a high priced wide receiver and went to a Super Bowl? I I can't remember, you know. So I do agree with you. I would rank wide receiver probably last in terms of what I'm willing to shell out. I think, you know, you can make argument between edge rusher and cornerback, and Ryan Niels would tell you the same thing. You know, like you have to have a good cornerback because that helps out the edge rusher. What came first, chicken or the egg? I would lean towards edge rusher as well, Hamby, just because I feel like they can have more of an effect on a game. Like, yeah, if you have a cornerback, you know, like a la Richard Sherman or Revis back in the day, you put him on one receiver, you forget about it, that's great. But then maybe you're not really talking about him during the game because, well, you're not going to throw the guy the football if that cornerback is covering him. But the edge rusher can affect the game many ways, stopping the run. Obviously, quarterback sacks, fumbles, turnovers, things like that. So I would go probably the same thing as you. I would go edge rusher number 1. I would go cornerback number 2, and then I would finish it up with wide receiver number 3. And it's kind of wild to think about, though, because it's an offensive-driven league, and Justin Jefferson just reset the market for a reason, right? But I do agree with you where I would err on the side of defense more than offense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think just to put on bow on Jalen Ramsey, again, 3 years, $72 million. That's 24 a year. For reference, Jags fans, you just gave Tyson Campbell 4 years, 76. That's 19 a year. So 19 a year for Tyson, 24 for Jalen. And, I mean, nonetheless, regardless of the contract, all eyes will be on whether Jalen suits up this Sunday. You got to believe it's going to have a ginormous impact and affect the entire game plan, I think, for Trevor Lawrence and this offense. And speaking of Trevor Lawrence, we do want to get to this. A lot of interesting things when Brent sat down one-on-one with Trevor. It was a long sit down. We're going to play a portion for it for you right now. And this is, I believe, yesterday. And again, Brent will be rejoining us shortly. But this is Brent sitting down with Trevor Lawrence ahead of this Sunday's opener.
I think year 2, you come in, this kind of Doug's program feel. I mean, he's got to change so many things and kind of start building the culture. Do you guys feel like it's yours now, in a sense, which I think he wants to happen, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think early on, you kind of, where we were at, I feel like we kind of relied on Coach Peterson and the staff to kind of instill those things in the culture, and it's just so much has happened. It was a whirlwind for me, obviously, from my first year to my second year, and we got a great staff that came in here, and so he's instilling the culture, and he's, you know, definitely the leader of the team, which he still is. But I think as it's grown and progressed, we've realized for this team to get to where we want to go, we have to have great leadership from within the players and the team, and I think that is we're going to take us to as far as we're going to go, and it has to come from the players. There's only so much that Coach Peterson can do. Obviously, he's a great leader, a great coach. You know, I look up to him and what he's been able to do here and in his past. But the players have to own it, and it has to become ours. And I think it really, really more than ever has become that this offseason and through training camp. And I think you can tell by watching us and just the intensity, the attention to detail in practice, all those things has been great. You know, from the team. I feel like it's definitely kicked up a notch this year.
You're an old guy at 24, but you're still a young guy. And people will rave, though, the older guys on the team, about your leadership. Has that always been natural to you? Is it something you've worked on?
It depends kind of what you call leadership. I've always felt like, as far as leading by example and like earning the respect of my teammates, that's something that's come naturally for me in my career, and that's something that I've just understood how it works, and you know, to kind of play my part until it's time, until you have the full trust and respect of your teammates. So that's always come more natural. I think some of the vocal leadership stuff I've had to grow into and learn along the way and find my voice in that, and when is the time to speak up when it's necessary, and how do I use my voice the right way, because I think it's important, obviously, as a leader to be vocal, but it has to be genuine too. So I always try to just be myself. And there's times where we have a lot of different types of leaders on our team, whether it's me or Josh or Evan or Foye or Christian or Mitch or Brandon up front, a lot of different guys, but we all are different. So I think that we all use our voice differently, which is really necessary, and you need that on a team because you hit different touch points, and you speak to different guys, and guys connect with different guys more than others. So I think that's been huge. Obviously, you know who your leaders are on the team, your main leaders, but I think having those different voices and having guys that are good at different things and speak to the team in different ways and have a different message, like that's been really cool to see.
All right, that is Trevor Lawrence in one-on-one with Brent Martineau. Very interesting to see and hear how he talked about, how it's everyone's objective to make this more of his team, not just Doug's team. Obviously, team effort on that front. But it's just interesting to see how he views his leadership responsibilities and how he's grown in that. We will have much more of that interview this weekend on Action Sports Jax primetime, Saturday and Sunday. Sunday going to be a lot of post-game coverage from the Dolphins game after that result. But nonetheless, we will have more of that for you this weekend. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back on the Brent and Austen Show on a Friday.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. There are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jag Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242. You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing. Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Maybe you need a new tankless water heater or something a bit more intricate. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Right now, get 10% off any residential job of $500 or more. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
At Southampton, local golfers have no shortage of options when it comes to picking a course to play here in Northeast Florida year-round. Yet time and time again, I find myself here at the golf club at Southampton. Easy to get to off 210 in St. Johns County. It's family-owned and operated and renowned for being one of the area's most player-friendly. That's just one of the reasons we hold the Action Sports Jax Dream 18 charity golf tournament here each fall. The Mark McCumber design layout is great for all skill levels of golfers, from the guys who bomb it a mile on the range to golfers like me who are just happy to put it in the fairway, which Southampton has very accommodating fairways. And if you need new clubs, come down to the pro shop. They'll fit you up and get you a nice new set like they did for me. For more information on membership or to book a tee time and see for yourself, head over to golfsouthampton.com or call the clubhouse at 904-287-7529. The Golf Club at Southampton. It's the official home of the Action Sports Jacks Dream 18. Make it your home for golf too.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Strings, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
Hey, there's a look at the Jaguars 2024 schedule. The on the wall that says it all. Obviously starts with the Dolphins, week 1, about less than 50 hours away, as we welcome you back to the Brent and Austen Show on a Friday. Jason Hamby, Austen Lane. We will soon be rejoined by Brent Martineau, who was down at Everbank Stadium talking to Doug Peterson, and we are waiting what he has to say. By the way, sorry, Delphonic, feel free to hop back in the chat. I believe I accidentally muted you, but see if you can't hop back in. Wrong guy.
That's no way to treat our loyal listeners. Is,
I know.
Muting them and kicking them out of the group.
Unfortunately, there was someone who was advertising for something that we don't want to advertise for and sharing a link. I was trying to mute them, but I believe I accidentally went one down and got our boy Delphonic, so hopefully I have fixed that. Let me know at me on Twitter if you're still having trouble. We appreciate all the comments so far today. Actually, we've gotten a lot on Jalen Ramsey, his supposedly back injury all healed up immediately as soon as he got his new contract. I believe Rappaport said they wanted to make sure that he would be a full participant in practice before making that deal public. That kind of insinuates, in a sense, that maybe this deal was done previously. I don't know how far or how long ago, but that is kind of what it insinuates. Will be remain to be seen on that front. But nonetheless, Jalen gets his deal. Austin, I want to take us to the Jags defensive side of the football now. We've talked a lot about all week how big of a deal it will be for the linebackers this week, with all of the speed, and all of the eye candy, and all of the motion that the Dolphins present. I believe last year we've pulled up the stat before that the Dolphins had the most motion, as in percentage of their plays. I believe it was almost an 80% clip. I believe I could be wrong on that, but I believe it was insanely high. And 80% of their offensive plays contained emotion. It had emotion at some point in the play. And we've talked so much about Foye, Muma, Devin, but can it be understated of how much the success of this Jaguars defense against the explosiveness, against the speed of the Dolphins will come down to their eyes being in the right spot and then playing fast this Sunday?
No, I mean, listen, Hamby, that's all it is. And it seems like one of the MOs of this Jaguars defense the past couple of years is it's been having problems, with eye discipline at the linebacking spot. It's been having problems of surrendering way too many yards to passes to, backs out of the backfield or tight ends down the middle. I mean, look, like we all talk about Derrick Henry last year for the Tennessee Titans, kind of keeping the Jaguars out of the playoffs. Well, remember a guy in Tajay Spears, too, had a pretty damn good game against the Jaguars that helped, keep the Jags out of the playoffs.
Yep.
And a lot of that had to do with, once again, just not being eye disciplined, giving him way too much space, and then, him killing you in the receiving game. And what the Titans were able to do last year to you, you need to amplify to the nth degree, because this is Miami's game, and listen, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm trying to stop Miami, like I'm having nightmares, man, because and we've been over this so many times, Hamby, but it's like, listen, do they have good wide receivers? Sure. Like, yeah, Tyreek Hill, one of the best wide receivers in the game. Okay. Jalen Waddle, no slouch himself. But like, yeah, Tyreek Hill's a unicorn, but guess what? Every team's usually got about 2 good wide receivers. It's the NFL. It's 2024. Like, every team has offensive talent for the most part. Now, there's a couple teams that are, like the Patriots, best of luck to you. But usually you have a team who has at least 2 dependable wide receivers. But where they beat you is, once again, just with that motion, just confusing you. It's not even so much of like, yeah, they have talent. Guess what? It's the NFL. You're going to have talent. They have talent, but that talent gets amplified when guys on defense are making mistakes. And that's the Dolphins' entire game. So to answer the question, how worried am I with this linebacking core? I'm very worried because, and once again, the 49ers were a team last year, and we know how that game went against the Jaguars when they played in Duval. It wasn't a good look. My son was there, and he was upset because the Jaguars didn't score a touchdown against the 49ers that game. So, yes, this team has had problems with motion. This team has had problems with eye discipline. You bring in Ryan Nielsen now. You hope those problems get cleared up. But here's my biggest thing, Hamby, and this is probably what makes me nervous more than anything during this game week.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact of you get the sense that guys are going to be interchangeable and playing all around in this defense. Like, nobody has a set position. And I like that. That'll confuse the offense. More power to you. My biggest gripe, though, is can you do that, but also make sure the guys on defense are in the right spots? Because when you start when you start making the offense overthink, you can tend to make yourselves overthink as well. And that's my biggest fear, is guys not being in the right spots, guys not covering the right people, just because there's so much confusion of, all right, am I playing this spot? You're playing that spot. So that's the biggest thing I'm looking for in Ryan Nielsen's defense. Are we going to have guys just focused on the play, focused on their man? Or are we going to have guys looking all around, pre-huddle, pre-snap, a little confused with the hands up in the air, wondering, where do I go here?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's going to be one of those things where we know almost immediately, by the first drive of when the ball is snapped, are our linebackers looking forward? I mean, for me, as the non-X's and O's fan, that is what I think fans should look for. And that's an easy thing that fans like myself can look for to know whether or not, at a minimum, the defense is ready at snap, and they're communicating, and they know where their keys are, they know what their assignment is, and there's communication. Are their heads forward at the snap, or are they still trying to communicate with the guy next to them, or try to get this guy in the right spot? And there's been a lot of talk about Foye Oluokun and a potential position change. Whether he's going to go from strong side, weak side. Well, last night was the official big time return of Jaguars All Access at String Sports Brewery. We do it every Thursday. Brent does it in partnership with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it's always a great crowd. I've been out there many times. Well, Foye joined the show last night, and he was asked specifically about that. We want to play you a little bit of this from Jaguars All Access last night at String Sports Brewery in Springfield.
And this one's less about Foye and more about the Jags defense. Our Baptist Health game-changing moments continue. Ryan Nielsen, he is added to the defensive staff as a defensive coordinator, and there's a lot of changes on defense, so much so that a lot of these things appear to be a little bit of a secret, maybe for Miami and the rest of us. I kind of can't watch to see it on Sunday afternoon, Jeff.
I'm anxious to watch it as well, and part of the change, Foye, was you changing positions. You went from the Mike to now you're the Will. Change even for you. What do you think about it?
It's actually low-key going back home. When I first got drafted, I was drafted as a Will, kind of playing in space, different coverages, matchups and stuff. So, I came in the league as a safety. and they told me best suit me to play linebacker. So kind of getting out the box a little bit again. I think it's a little bit fun of a change. Obviously, I played 3 years there as the Mike, but I can do either one, Will or Mike.
Does this give you a chance to make more plays, be a playmaker? I mean, obviously you've been a tackling machine. Will we see less of the tackles, more big play potential? Is that part of the shift?
I'm trying to do whatever I'm supposed to do every play. We're going to see how it unfolds as the year goes on. I think really being able to make plays is having trust in the rest of the team, and I think that's kind of what we're establishing. Being everybody owning their job and doing their job each and every play, and then playing faster. And if I can just trust that my partner's doing his job, I can go make the play I'm supposed to make.
What has defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen brought to the table as far as energy?
It's electric. I wouldn't even say electric as much as contagious. I think he brings this tenacity towards the room, and he talks about this attack and aggressive mindset, and he lives that every day. Talk to him. He gets in the facility 4:30, and then when you see him at 8:30, it's like he just got there wide-eyed and everything ready to go. But it's really who he is. Like, you try to catch him slipping one day, no, he's going to bring the same energy, same mindset to whatever the meeting is every time.
All right, there you go. That's Foye Oluokun on Jaguars All Access last night. Austin, I mean, we'll get to Nielsen in a second, and we got to love hearing that as your new defensive coordinator. But specifically back to Foye, saying he's going to return to playing weak side linebacker, kind of where he was before moving to the mic, something that he thinks he's very comfortable with. Your thoughts, and I know you've had some apprehension about moving a guy that's been so successful at the mic to a different position, period, no matter what it is.
Yeah, and really, that apprehension, it doesn't necessarily speak on Foye. It speaks more on, Lloyd. Right. And, Brent might think that I dislike Lloyd the way I badmouth him, and that's not the case at all. I mean, you know how I feel about this, Amby. I think if you're taking in the first round, you got to be a contributor. And I think in the preseason, you saw a guy who, to quote Quincy Williams from his rookie year to now seeing him as an all-pro, which is still crazy in New York. But, it looks like his head's in a beehive sometimes with, drop back into coverage, filling in the wrong gap. And we saw that from Lloyd a little bit. And one could think now with Chad Muma and the emergence of him, if the coaches saw that too and were wondering, like, hey, okay, maybe we take Lloyd out of that starting role, we elevate Chad Muma, and then we try to find Lloyd in another capacity. Mm-hmm. Or do they just go back to the way it was last year? And was this thing on Brent's show all of Foye, and Foye is actually the middle linebacker, and then Lloyd's back to the outside? I mean, we'll see, and we're going to find out quickly. But, yeah, it's not necessarily a knock on Foye. I think you can put Foye at a lot of positions. I think he has the IQ, he has the smarts, and he's going to be great. But if you're asking, like, where I want to see Foye more than anything, the guy's obviously got a very high football IQ. And he gets, his players ready. He gets the defensive line up front if they got it. Like, he's a good general, Hamby. And I like to see that general at that middle linebacker spot. Now, granted, when you're a nickel and you have two linebackers, even a corner, a safety, whatever you want to call it, yeah, I mean, they're kind of interchangeable in terms of the linebackers, but I just still like seeing Foye in that middle, kind of had like that general nature to him, because I think that's what he's suited for best. Like, yeah, dude's an athlete. Dude can run around. I understand all that. But, like, to me, the biggest attribute of Foye Oluokun is his smarts and his IQ. And it reminds me a lot of what Puz was. Like, Puz, was a great football player. He had the strength, he had the speed, athleticism, he had all that stuff. But if you break down the attributes of Paul Posluszny and, like, where he shined more than anybody at that position, I felt like, was the IQ, was the smarts, was being in the right spot at the right time. And once again, kind of bringing it full circle here, when you talk about the Miami Dolphins and all the motion that they used, whoever's playing middle linebacker, who's ever playing outside linebacker, you have to be at the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, and I think, that's great insight. And it's one of those things, and he's referenced this a couple of times, where he believes this switch will give him more of an opportunity to focus on making plays. And I think that's a sign that that Nielsen, that the entire squad, Doug Peterson, believe that Muma, Lloyd are more worthy of trust. That Foye is going to have to do less of telling other guys where they're supposed to be, communicating, being that general, because those guys are in their third year and know where they're supposed to be on their own. That's a big thing. When we talk about the team speed of the Dolphins, it's one of those things where I think for me the key to the defensive game plan is, I think it has to be, and I think it is very obvious, is limit the big play. Limit the big play.
Yeah.
And easier said than done. We know that. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to give up a couple chunk plays, but this is why I'm excited, at least, to go back this offseason, specifically in training camp, to how much we heard about Nielsen's defense in the red area. And I'm hoping, this is one of my bigger hopes for this Sunday, is that what we heard and what we saw from Nielsen's defense and the success they seem to have in the red area, that we see that this Sunday, because obviously we know that red zone is important, but you're going to give up the chunk play against the Dolphins, but that speed, when you get in the red area, that condenses, it gets a little easier, there's a lot less space. Is it fair to say that the game still will be won and lost, and which team can convert if the Jags can hold them when they do get down there to field goals?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's going to be a big part of it, Hamby. I also think a big part of, the difference between a win or a loss is controlling the clock. Mm-hmm. I get that we like this Jaguars offense. We like the playmakers. We like Trevor Lawrence. Hopefully we like the play calling, and maybe we'll find out today from Brent when he comes back on the show who's calling the plays. For the nth time of asking that question. But to me, the most important thing is going to be controlling the clock on offense, right? I don't want to go toe-to-toe with the Dolphins. Not yet. I need to see more from the Jaguars offense before I'm ready to get in the track meet with maybe the most explosive offense in the entire NFL. So I think it comes down to, obviously limiting your opponent to field goals is obviously always a bonus. But to me, even more importantly, Hamby, it's going to be, being able to run the football and impose your will, which, once again, some of the most cliche terms in football, but there's a reason why they're cliche, because they work. So, and real quick, just kind of my final thoughts too on Foye Oluokun here. I get the excitement from his standpoint. I get the excitement because now he kind of gets to move around a little more, it seems like, and run around a little more, because to me, it's very comparable to what I've had in Kansas City. Like the middle linebacker spot can be a thankless job sometimes. Like, yes, you have the green dot. Yes, you're calling the defense. Yes, you're the general and everything. But, I mean, dude, it's literally just coming downhill, taking on, fullbacks or pullers, double teams sometimes, lowering your head and trying to deliver a blow. I mean, that's the job of middle linebacker. It can be thankless sometimes, right? And then I think it's why we can name a lot more edge rushers or outside linebackers in the NFL than we can middle linebackers, because it can be a thankless job. I remember in Kansas City, I go from playing an edge in Jacksonville defensive end in a 4-3 to playing an interior defensive end in a 3-4. Now, obviously didn't have a Chris Jones skill set, so my job was basically, okay, take on the double teams, let the linebackers get clean, make the plays, and every once in a while, you guys can run like a twist game up front and try to get to the quarterback. But once again, kind of a boring and thankless job. Well, then I go to Chicago in a 3-4 defense once again, and now that be playing outside linebacker. And now, Hamby, I'm like, and you would think, like, okay, well, we're all professionals here. Like, you just do your job. To hell with that. I'm standing up now, and I'm like, feel like an athlete. Like, it does something to you. So I think that's where the excitement from Foye comes, where it's like, you spent a lot of your career doing the same thing, having to take on these blocks, come downhill, stop the running back at the line of scrimmage, set the defense, all this stuff that a middle linebacker's got to do. And now it's almost like he's found a new lease on life, where it's like, yeah, I'm still calling the defense and everything, but now I can fly around a little more. I can move around a little more and feel like an athlete a little more. Yeah, I would be pretty excited too. Now the biggest question is going to be, is this actually true, or was this all a smokescreen and Foye still playing the middle linebacker spot?
Yeah, I don't think. Hey, welcome back to me. I don't think it's a smokescreen. I think he's going to be playing. I think they're going to be interchangeable. I think he's playing the weak side. I mean, per what he said, I'm assuming you guys might have played or had played what he said on Access. So I don't know why it's not like he's. You can tell Austen when guys are dancing around a question. It's not like it was that. And this is now multiple times. He stood on a podium and said it. So it's just the depth chart looks a little goofy, I think, to us, and it doesn't add up or match up. But I agree with what you said. I mean, I think with Foye, he thinks he can make plays in this kind of defense. They think he can make plays, more of them. He did have a couple fumble recoveries and the pick six last year. That was a lot. I think he had 1 year in Atlanta where he had similar kind of numbers in terms of the splash plays. But he's been a tackling machine for the most part. I think this is kind of similar to Darnell Savage, right? What gets Savage excited about this defense is he's going to come down to Jacksonville and he might be around the ball more, Austen, have a chance to make a play. Like, that's what guys want, right? I mean, that's what gets you in Pro Bowls, and that's what gets you on national TV and headlines and people talking about you. If you can do that, and I'm not discrediting that they want to win and the team stuff is there too, but if you can do that and win, that's a much better role to play.
Yeah, Brent, let me go and ask you this. Do you think the game plan, from Ryan Nielsen and the Jaguars, because we all know the journey that's going to happen here on Sunday, the challenge that's ahead of them. Like, you're playing against a very dynamic offense that specializes in movement and motion and trying to confuse their opponent. Do you think that instead of maybe playing, and once again, like, you know how I feel about this, I would rather just play a super basic game plan on defense, stay disciplined, and don't have the mental errors. Do you think the plan from Nielsen's going to be to almost try to confuse Mike McDaniel and almost like offer their own sets of exotic things where it's like, okay, now we have to mind our P's and Q's on offense because we haven't seen this look before, as opposed to playing it's kind of like a basic game plan? Like, do you think he's almost going to try to outsmart, I guess I would say, Mike McDaniel?
I don't think so. I hope not. I know that can happen in coaching. I think you can overcoach. I don't think this is it. I think this is actually stepping back from the ego of that and kind of putting some things together that make sense. And I know I heard you coming in about the, you're concerned, but that could also be the biggest advantage of the Jags is to disguise stuff. Well, if you're moving around different positions, are you going to be able to be disciplined? Are you going to be able to do your job as well if you're moving around? My interpretation of this, and you know X's and O's way more than me, but putting this all together, my interpretation is probably about 3 or 4 things. One, overall, this is a simple scheme. It's not complex. I think they got skilled players from linebacker to even Armstead and Trayvon to Darnell Savage and Antonio Johnson to be able to interchange those guys from a skill set standpoint and move bodies around that might make it trickier than it really is for a quarterback or an offense who's trying to dissect things with a few seconds left on the play clock. But I also don't believe, and I get that this part could be tricky, that the rules change that much on their defense, Austen, no matter where those guys are going, because the defense is kind of simple. So that's my whole kind of broad view of this. And so and one last part, I think he wants to put guys in position to play at their best. Hand in the dirt, Trayvon. Hand in the dirt, Josh. Maybe moving around Armstead. Foye Oluokun weak side. Put weight on Devin Lloyd. Let him just go attack the line of scrimmage and the running back go get the ball, get him out of coverage. And same goes for Savage and Johnson. So that would be my 4th point, which makes it fun, which makes you locked in, which makes you attention to detail, all those things. So I actually think this is very simplistic, a lot of common sense and logic to their defense, rather than, hey, we're going to go outsmart you here.
Brent, try to take me back here. When they moved Miles Jack to Mike, Puz was the strong side then, right? Didn't they move Puz,
yes.
Or was Puz kind of on the bench then?
He was strong side, but he was strong side. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure you heard us talking about, how I feel about Foye. And, dude's super talented, obviously. He has the resume to back it up. but you get the sense that Foye is maybe his biggest attribute to this team is the IQ, is being in the right spot at the right time and getting guys set up. And when you talk about those attributes really mirror a middle linebacker. And I guess my question to you is, how confident are you? Like, I feel like Foye can play any position. He'll be fine. Like he's that talented of a player. But do you feel like his skill set, his attributes are better suited to middle linebacker? And then it's not going to be like a situation again where we saw with Miles Jack where, okay, let's move him to the inside. Let's move Puz to the outside and see what happens.
Well, I think my view of it is he's going to have the green dot. So the organization of the defense can still fall under his umbrella. I don't think you're going to put too much on the plate. They were trying to put too much on the plate, I think, of Miles Jack back in that day. And he had, by that time, played like all three linebacker positions. And let me say this with as much respect as possible. Well, I do not think like Miles was a dumb player. I think Foye is like an elite, intelligent player, from an IQ standpoint. I think he's instinctual, all those kind of things on top of his smarts. And in fairness to him versus like a Miles in this situation, if we're making the comparison, he's been in the league longer. He knows more. He's been through more of the battles. So I think all those things still add up to the guy that gets his head spinning a little bit in this defense, it appears to me, is Devin Lloyd. They're making his job simpler, in my opinion. Go attack the ball, get out of coverage as much, go get the running back, those maybe have some fun around the line of scrimmage, those kind of things. And then they're probably putting more on Foye's plate, playing in space, cover guys, all those kind of things, and do what you already do, but he can handle it, is my guess. So, but he's going to have the green dot from everything I've heard and understand, Austin, so he'll still be lining guys up even from that spot.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And once again, we kind of talked about this before a little bit. Like when you're at a nickel, then you talk about two kind of interchanging linebacker spots. Right, like you're going to line up a little differently, but you're essentially kind of doing the same thing. So we're talking about maybe 20%, and even against the Miami Dolphins, who I feel like they go a little more spread.
Yeah,
maybe you're talking like 15 to 10% of actually being in that base defense. Yeah, I get it. And once again, it remains to be seen whether it's going to be Chad Muma, whether it's going to be Devin Lloyd, and what the Devin Lloyd plan is going to be. And I think we disagree here in terms of. You're under the philosophy, which I understand, where as long as you find something for Devin Lloyd, whether it's Chad Muma comes in as a third-round pick, that's fine. Like, as long as you have the guy for the job, it doesn't matter where they're drafted. And I can see that side, but I also see a side where it's like, well, if you invested that much in a first-round pick, you really need to get something out of that guy. And where is he best going to be suited, whether it's going to be in the middle linebacker spot or on the outside, rushing the passer. And I think Ryan Nielsen understands that as well. And then once again, I'm going to, I was critical in the preseason on Lloyd, obviously. And I think we've seen some of that now transpire where we may have Chad Muma have jumped him in terms of that starting spot. But I still want to see this defense in a regular season game, in a meaningful game of what it's looked like before I make my last judgments of it.
Yeah, I think, and I don't even know if these will be the final ones, because I think when you go play the Cleveland Browns, who might run it a little bit more, I think you're going to get Muma on the field a little bit more, or whatever combination on the field. I think Lloyd's going to play. I think Muma's going to play. I don't know the percentages of how much they're going to play, and I do think it's a fascinating look at how this unfolds. And here's the other thing. Not all 11 guys are going to be great on defense. Not all 11 probably are going to be great on offense. The hope is you can have nobody that's glaringly bad on either side of the ball, and you minimize how many people aren't playing great. But, I mean, I'd love to see Devin Lloyd have a breakout year. Muma had maybe the breakout camp on defense of anybody else. We think Foye's good. We wonder about Devon Hamilton coming back in the fold, Roy Robertson. I can project all these guys being, oh, yeah, they're great. I can buy into it. I can do this. But the reality is not everybody's going to be great. I mean, there are going to be mistakes made. There's going to be poor games and great games. And I think the Jags just have to hide some of that. And if right now, let's just say in theory, you look at their defense and you're like, okay, our weakest link out there is, we kind of think it's maybe Devin Lloyd. We're not sure what we're going to get. Does this hide that a little bit better? Like there might be a reality to that as well. And that was just an example, by the way. I'm not saying that is their weakest link. I don't even know if we know that quite yet. So fascinated to watch this defense play, man, for all those reasons that you just brought up that we've been talking about. It's really wild to me that in an offensive game, which we could get, and you guys talked about it earlier, and I heard what your key to the game was, and I agree with you. It's like controlling the clock, being able to run, move the sticks, get third downs. Like that's controlling the tempo of this game is really an important thing here against the Miami Dolphins. Now, listen, I think the Jags can score. I think they can take advantage of this defense, too. This is an all-world defense. So, but controlling the clock and limiting the possessions and then cashing in on your possessions really, I guess, is the name of the game anyway in almost any game you play. But it feels a little bit more amped up for this one with the Miami Dolphins' ability to quick strike and score so much. So, fascinating game coming up on Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS 47. Just a reminder, by the way, we'll countdown to kickoff 11:30. Post-game show for an hour right after. That will be on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Instant reaction from Miami. And then, of course, Action Sports Jacks primetime Sunday night. Don't forget, tonight we have an NFL preview show for an hour. I think you guys might have already played a little bit of my sit-down with Trevor Lawrence. We'll have that full interview with Trevor Lawrence tonight on the show, 7 o'clock on CBS 47. And then right after that, you can watch that one on Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network too. And right after we go to the Friday Night Zone Blitz. So, man, we're having a lot of fun with this thing. We've got 14 hours of live coverage today on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. A lot of fun. So why don't you tune in? ActionNewsJacks.com and the Action News Jacks app. In Northeast Florida, we love hanging out on the back patio, maybe grilling out lunch or dinner with the family, enjoying the good weather, or maybe enjoying the big game on the TV. Or maybe your favorite team in town, the Action Sports Jacks team. This is great, except for when it's really hot or the bugs start coming out. But what if you didn't have to worry about that? Titan Outdoor Solutions will make your outdoor area a comfortable spot any time of the day, any time of the year. This makes too much sense. Titan Outdoor Solutions can give your home an upgrade. Customized pergolas, awnings, controlled shade, even retractable screens. The solution to beating the heat and the bugs and getting more use out of your home is Titan Outdoor Solutions. And this can even help prevent storm damage at your home. Living in Florida and living in your home is already good. Now make it great. Quality products, custom work, locally owned and operated. Visit TitanShuttersAndScreens.com or call 904-484-7580.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From 1954 to 2024, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. That commitment includes a partnership with the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team as the presenting sponsor of all Armada men's and women's broadcasts this summer. Action Sports Jacks and Alive Credit Union, a partnership that just makes sense when it comes to covering Northeast Florida. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of our first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants.
We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter.
Right now, you can save $1,000 or more when you bundle the Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Financing options available with approved credit. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years, and also sit on the Baker's Bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices or pitching. Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit Bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports. From Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com. Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Well, here, look at Doug Peterson, third year with the Jags, 14 years of coaching experience now. You go all the way back to those Philly days as he was assistant, and then with, obviously, Andy Reid in Kansas City, too. And, man, Super Bowl coach. Guy knows what he's doing. I would say that. We might not like how he's handled the whole play calling thing. But other than that, he knows what he's doing. 12-year playing career, too, so he knows what it's like to be a player.
Did you ask him again?
Did that go today? I don't think it did.
Okay.
Trying to decipher in my mind what was maybe on the record in front of a podium and not.
Oh, okay. I got you.
But
wink, wink.
Yeah. No. He's not telling us. He's just not telling us. Like that hasn't changed. Like it wasn't like a Today news conference. It was going to change. So, but I mean, listen, here's the deal. We are to the point in this part of it, Austin. We've been saying this for over a month, I think. Like Press is the guy that's calling plays. He's down on the sideline. He's been calling the plays. And all of this, really, we're just after, like, is he going to put a bow on this conversation or not? Like, it's not really like the answer. It's more of if he's going to answer. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So, I mean, it is what it is.
Do we know, is he going to be on the sidelines, or are we still waiting to hear that as well?
No, he did. He did say Wednesday that he's going to be on the sideline.
Did y'all use the hear from Trevor when he talked about how much of the game plan is done by Press?
Yeah, we did that yesterday. And yeah, I mean, again, everything Trevor says points to Press anyway. Like, he's really been the indicator of, okay, and plus, you're not bringing why would you bring the offensive coordinator down to the sideline if he wasn't going to call play? You know what I mean? Like, why would you just think it's better if he says hi to Trevor in person? So, again, I'm over it.
Yeah, no, I hear you, as am I. But was Bieniemy always on the sidelines when Andy Reid was calling plays?
That's a good question. Now, you say always. I say yes, I remember him on the sideline in some of the, like, when they show the shots.
Him too as well. I just didn't. Yeah, I just didn't know, like, to start things off with if he was in the booth or not. But
yeah, we were just talking amongst ourselves a little bit, just down there, and somebody brought up, and I didn't really know this as well, but like even Nagy, who's there now with Andy Reid, like will call plays sometimes. So like that's what I don't really fully understand about this whole conversation of the last 6 months, and this is why we don't really get like our criticism of Doug here is like really more how he has handled this. And like I would just be like, listen, it's collaborative around the league. You know, like Andy Reid and Nagy do. When I was with Andy Reid, like I would do it sometimes, or you know, any of those kind of things. If that is true, that those kind of nuggets just share, and you can explain it away. Here's the thing about Doug. Doug's done overall really well here in Jacksonville so far. Overall, really well. He also has a Lombardi Trophy. Like I believe you, Doug. Like I'm good. Like. What you're doing out here on offense is better than what I saw the previous 15 years before you came. So, like, I'm cool with it. Now, I'm not sure everybody's cool with it, but I'm cool with it. So I don't know that, like, he's got equity built. Got equity built with me, at least. I think he's got equity built with the fans. I know last year at the end was a bad thing, but overall, I feel like he's got equity built where this thing is headed, where it's going, what they have, how they're doing. So that's why I feel like it doesn't have to be a thing because of that. Like, it's almost like, hey, if Doug says it, you say once in a while, you'll say I think you say in Nielsen we trust, right? I think this franchise right now, I think this fan base, I think this team, the locker room, absolutely it's in Doug we trust. When you guys played the Trevor bit, I'm assuming this was in it because I know this was part of the topic. When I asked him about the culture, I mean, I thought one of the cool parts of that was when he talked about Doug Peterson and what he's done here in Jacksonville. He even said, like, I look up to Doug. Like, your franchise quarterback is saying, I look up to my head coach. He wasn't saying that about Urban. So.
Yeah, but I agree here. But to be fair, man, Doug Peterson spent a lot of time in the NFL as a backup quarterback. Urban Meyer didn't.
I get it. I'm just saying that's why Doug has the equity. So, like, Doug can say it. It's okay if not everybody agrees with it. I think they'll give him the benefit of the doubt until it's time to really disagree with it or there's hard evidence to show that he made the wrong decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he's got leeway still. He's got run. Even with the collapse of last year, he's still got runway and leeway with everybody here in Jacksonville, which is a great position to be in. And that's probably why I'd be critical of how he's handled this whole situation. He didn't need to do this. But it is what it is. I'm really tired of talking about it, to be honest with you. But so I probably won't be asking anymore, just to let you know.
Brent got scolded.
No. He didn't get scolded. No. That's got nothing to do with it. Okay. But no, listen, I've got other people asking on my behalf at times still. So, I mean, I just feel like this is like, I always say this about when you were in the locker room or something like that. If Austen doesn't feel like he wants to talk to me today, that's cool. I'll talk to him next week. This is a little bit like that. It's like, if he's not going to answer the question, I'm not going to keep asking the question just to hear myself talk. You know?
you weren't even talking to me anyways, man. I was chilling there waiting for someone to come talk to me. It was just me and Vito hanging out. Nobody else wanted to come talk to me. Just me and Vito all the time.
You and Vito. God bless you. I love Vito. The Brazil game, real quick. Before I want to do like at noon, we're going to get into all our picks and who's going to the Super Bowl and everything else. But this has been an interesting story also. I know we've had it kind of on our topic sheet for the last 4 days, but Darius Slay and other players feel a little bit uncomfortable about playing in Brazil with, and excuse myself, excuse me, but I don't know exactly everything going on in Brazil, but obviously there's stuff going on in Brazil. And some players say they're a little uncomfortable about playing there. This is a little bit of the danger zone, right, of traveling outside the United States or kind of pushing the reaches of globalization in the NFL. You could run into situations like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. We talk about Brazil. Obviously, they were kind of in a polarizing light during the Olympics. There were some issues there as well years ago in the Olympics there. And yeah, like you said, like Slay came out and said like he doesn't want his family to go. There's not going to be like sightseeing because, obviously usually on away games or games that you travel, there is some downtime. You can kind of go out and venture the city a little bit. That's one of my favorite things to do. on a Saturday when you get into the city that you played in. And Darius Slay has kind of said, like, they're urging us, we can't go outside of our hotel rooms, we can't go check out the city because, you know, in terms of danger and everything. So, yeah, you know, I wonder. I mean, and we'll see how this game goes tonight, Brent. But I wonder if it starts to be more of a talking point from NFL players thinking like, all right, well, you guys want us to go here, but we can't go outside of our hotel rooms. It's not maybe the safest thing. We don't want to bring our families. You know, like, will this be used in the next CBA? You know, like, will they ask for more things? Because we know what the NFL is trying to do. They're trying to grow the game even more on a global scale and make more money, and that's fine. But you have to ask yourself if you're willing to, you know, is the juice worth the squeeze, especially when players are saying like they're not going to leave their hotel rooms because maybe they don't feel the safest.
Yeah, I do think it's a fascinating discussion. They could play this game tonight. Everything goes swimmingly and cool, and the NFL goes to Brazil, and they mission accomplished. But I do think you have to at least take into consideration your employees, essentially, which are the players, and how they feel about it, and what is the risk reward of anything that could happen. This is a high-profile deal. It's not like you and I are going down to do our show, right? And there might be some tepid times. This is everybody knows these guys are down there or whatever. And I'm not privy to everything, so I don't want to talk like an expert on this. I'm just saying in general, it doesn't matter if it's Brazil. It doesn't matter if it's London, quite frankly. It doesn't matter if it's Germany or anywhere else. I think this is something that's going to be interesting. There's always changing things going on in the world. And the Olympics, you're right, had this whole deal with Brazil at the time. Like, you really wondered if that should have happened. Or at least that's what it felt like from the outside looking in. And then it seemed like things went overall pretty well in Brazil, as I remember it. And positive experiences from at least the swimmers that we know from here in Jacksonville and other things. So I'm not telling you it can't be done. I just do think it's an interesting part of whether it is the CBA, whether it's this holding hands to globalize the sport, which obviously means more money, more exposure for everybody involved. And so there's a win in all of this for everybody, but you got to make sure everybody feels good about it. Because here's the other thing, Austin. If you don't feel great about going to play a football game tonight in Brazil, well, it's your life. It's your job. Like, you want to feel good about going to work and playing a game and putting on a show and being your best, especially if you're being compensated the way these guys are. So that's part of it too. Like, we want the product to be really good. You're asking me to deliver. There's already challenges just on a 10-hour flight and time changes and all this other stuff. Well, I don't want this in my psyche to start the year. So I'm not telling you it's unfair. I'm not telling you anything's going to happen. I just think it at least needs to be discussed in league circles. And I've got to assume, as big as this league is, Austin, it's been discussed.
You would think so. And once again, like, you know, there's always going to be stuff to make the game better, right? Like, when it was my CBA and we were going through it, obviously it was, you know, should we do real two-a-days anymore? Should we actually practice hard 2 times a day? Or should we just go, you know, every other day it was one practice? And that's what happened, right? And I wonder, you know, in NFL circles between those guys and teammates and everything, I wonder how much of it we talked about, where it's like, man, they got us flying 10 or whatever hours to Brazil. We can't go outside. We can't do it, you know, I mean, and not just Brazil. I mean, you know, they're doing a lot of international games now, Brent. And once again, I just wonder if the next CBA, it's going to be talking about how players where it's like, man, you got us traveling all around the world for this. You know, what are you going to do for us now? Are you going to give us a bigger piece of the pie? Because the pie's getting bigger. When you're playing in Brazil, when you're playing in Germany, when you're playing in Mexico, you're spreading the game, all right? So you're making more money. So then I wonder if the other side of that is going to be in retaliation to, then it's making more money, give us more of the pie.
And by the way, it should be noted, too, that, Darius Slay is the one that kind of started this conversation earlier in the week, and he backtracked on what he said. Like, he actually apologized for it, for offending everybody. You know, it wasn't his intention, everything else. But that was, by the way, on a podcast, his own podcast. that he was saying that. And in the podcast, the corner pointed to the crime rate as one of the reasons why he didn't want to play over there. His quote was, "I do not want to go to Brazil. You want to know why? I'm going to tell you why. They already told us not to leave the hotel. They told us we can't do too much going on because the crime rate is crazy." I'm like, NFL, why would you want to send us somewhere where a crime rate is this high? Which, by the way, in that regard, there are plenty of American cities that these guys end up in that the crime rate's pretty high. There's an NFL team in one of the cities where the crime rate recently has been pretty high. I think what's also fascinating, I don't know this part as much. I just see it floating around because I'm on Twitter. Like, if you want to suspend me apparently from tweeting anything for a week, I guess I should go to Brazil because I think they can't. Like, there's no Twitter right now.
Elon.
Right? Is that? Yep. I think that's a thing. Am I correct?
Yeah, Elon got in a dispute over free speech with the powers that are in Brazil, and Brazil said, "All right, no Twitter, no X."
Yeah. So it's what's wild about that for us as consumers, right, of the NFL is will we see tweets coming out of Brazil for this game, right? Like, well, that's one of the ways we kind of cover it, absorb it, and we watch it, of course. But I think I'll be curious to see tonight if there's like live game tweeting from people covering the game. And the game's on Peacock. It's one of those stream-only games. And Friday, just a new thing for the NFL, and part of that because it is in Brazil. So that's the latest on that.
Just go to space and make cars, though, right?
I know it. I know. I mean, I had to get verified.
Foreign policy, diplomatic policy. Just make your cars, go on SNL, and go to space, and then we're all good.
Guys, I wanted to point out real quick, Goodell spoke on NFL expansion this morning, and kind of tied right in with what the conversation is right now. He said, "We feel like this game is destined to be global." Goodell said, when asked if Africa could be the next continent to host a game, "We expect to be in Asia soon. We expect to be in Australia soon. We're going to make sure that our game is available around the globe." And I think the ownership has been great on that. They've passed a resolution where every team is obligated to play outside the U.S. We're going to have 8 international games a year minimum. And if we do get to an 18 and 2 preseason game season, we likely will see even more international games. And I hope someday we'll be playing 16.
Yeah, that's Goodell. It's a huge mission of his and the owners, right? It increases the pie, crazy dollars, expose the sport. It's so popular here. If anything else, like soccer, by the way, which is so popular around the world, that's why it's been exposed to us so much in the United States over the last 20, 25 years. People are like, why are we doing that here, right? Same thing for anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure pickleball was born in some country, and everybody's like, hey, this ain't going to really work. So, I mean, hey, you know that, right? You're an anime fan. Well, anime has probably been, I would imagine, in the Far East or, those countries for a long time.
Yep.
It didn't start in the United States. So I just think this is natural business movement. The question, it's so foreign for us, excuse the play on words, because it just seems so almost unrealistic that you could play a game in Australia and be ready for everything else that you have to do in the NFL, Austin.
Yeah, that 22-hour flight to Australia is going to be, I would probably just forfeit, honestly. All right, you want us to go to Australia? We're just going to forfeit. Or what happens if both teams forfeit and it's just like a tie or something, Listen, I understand growing the game, and that's great. And is it about growing the game for the betterment of the game, or is it about growing the game because you want to get more money?
More money.
And you can make an argument. Yeah, exactly. I mean, but let me ask this. I get in this country, soccer has definitely grown, right? I mean, I think Messi coming over here kind of put the MLS on a different type of map and everything. But, do you really feel like the international games, when the English Premier Leagues come over to play in the United States, do you think that hype is enough to help grow the game? You know what I'm saying? Do you feel like, like a fever pitch where it's like, oh yeah, they're coming to play some soccer, like, and all of a sudden like the fandom becomes more, because I'm not going to say it's stagnant, but I haven't yeah, I've seen the growth of soccer here in the United States, but it's not like I've seen it where, oh wow, like this English Premier team's coming over here, we have to go get tickets,
Yeah, I think we do this a lot, Austin. I'm not saying you're doing it. I think soccer has grown a ton. I think at the youth levels, I think obviously how good we are in the United States in women's soccer from a global standpoint. I think you just said it, right? For people that, I get the money's real, but the money's real, that means there's interest in people backing it to get a guy like Messi here to Florida. And I think we're going to see more of that kind of stuff. I think we're seeing it right here in Jacksonville with two teams, and the growth continues. I think we see it on our networks here with Action Sports Shack, CBS 47, Fox 30. We also have Telemundo in our building. I mean, we have soccer littered all over our stations. Like, there's a reason for it. There's money involved in it. And if there's money involved in it, that means there's interest somewhere in it. So it might not be to the level that we equate everything else to, but that's okay. And I think that's what's going to happen overseas with this sport, with football. It's not to the level of the thirst for it that it is in the United States. It never will be, probably. But there's going to be enough where you can make $1 off it and help grow the sport, and sooner or later get international players playing your game, which then will even globalize it more. How long that takes, I don't know. The other thing about this, Austin, is I think the players embrace this stuff for the most part. It's funny, we got on this because of Darius Slay, but overall, the players have embraced this kind of travel. Like, you do not hear the Jags players complaining about the London stuff. I don't hear it. Now, maybe behind the scenes they're saying it, but in front of microphones, they're actually like, yeah, this would be kind of fun. And I know there's this disconnect here in Jacksonville with the whole London topic. I get that. But the bottom line is it's worked. And Shad was on the forefront of it. And now other owners are seeing it. And the NFL's seeing it. And that's why we're here and talking about potentially a game in Australia someday, and now Germany and all these other games going on. Like, that's the reality of it. I'm not telling you have to like it here in Jacksonville and that you should play two. Like, we can have all those debates. I'm just telling you the reality is what the Jags did worked and has worked for the league, also for Shad, also for Jacksonville, and people are trying to mimic it. And that's why we're seeing so much of this, or they wouldn't jump on board, Austin.
No, I agree. But like, at the same time, if you're a player on the Jaguars, the last thing you're going to do is badmouth going to London because, well, that's what your owner kind of started, right? Like, I don't think anybody's that dumb to be like, come out and say, man, I don't like traveling to London and leaving my family behind. I think that's stupid because, well, Shad Khan hears that. So, yeah, I mean, maybe the players do kind of enjoy the vacation, going to a different country a little bit, especially, if you're younger and haven't done a lot of traveling. I can see that. But I just don't know. And once again, this isn't really a Jaguars thing. I'm just talking about in totality. I guess the question is going to be, Brent, is how much is enough?
Yeah.
Where before it becomes too much, and like, I think Australia is starting to echo that, a little bit. Who knows? Maybe one day you're going to be have a game on the moon, why not? Make some money.
I don't know. Listen, I will tell you this, and I don't know when this came out. Now, I was sent it. So there was a story, and I knew they were working on it, and I was actually sent it because I'm in it, interviewing Shad at Wembley, and so that's why somebody sent it to me. But I think it was Bloomberg.
What a flex.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but Bloomberg did I didn't get any royalties for this, but Bloomberg did basically like a 45-minute piece or so on Shad, and kind of the combo of the English Premier League business model, the NFL business model, Jacksonville, Fulham, like that whole thing, and what they're doing, and how he's kind of like, it's mirror image basically on what they're doing, from stadium renovations to growth of the team to some of the bad times and some of the good times, all this stuff. And it was pretty fascinating to take a look at just the business model, if you're not familiar with it, of the EPL versus the NFL, and why there are some parts of the NFL that are a little envious of the EPL, and there are a lot of parts of the EPL that are envious of the NFL, and how we got to this stage. So just to go look at it, shameless plug for Bloomberg, but it's on Shad Khan. I thought it was pretty interesting how just the whole thing is explained. Shad's very good in it too, in his story, but just the leagues and where we could get to globally. And I think they're kind of trying to pick the best parts of each other and kind of grow that into their league. And some of it's a little bit of a copycat. And I'm sure the NBA is involved in that same type of thing, right? We're seeing that. And we're seeing that with private equity groups now getting in sports, from college to the NFL. It's already been in the NBA a little bit, from my understanding. So really all the leagues. NFL's latest one to the party. And now college football might be in that party. So just all this business side, which I'm not too smart to really know that much. But I think is kind of a fascinating parallel at times, especially because Shad Khan and the Jaguars go to London, and that Fulham and Jacksonville connection with the same owner. Hey, let's do this. Take a break. When we come back, get your picks ready, Austen Lane. We got to pick this stuff. Who's going to the postseason? Who wins the AFC South? Who's going to the Super Bowl? Plus, collectively, we have a battle on between the other shows on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network, and we want to win. So we have to collectively pick 6 games going into the weekend, 3 college, 3 NFL. There's a lot of picking going on over the next little bit. Pick what hat you like the best. The Dream 18 hats. I think they look pretty sweet, to be honest with you. I think we did a good job. Not really me, but we in totality. And thanks to Dome Hats for those. You'll get one of those hats if you're signed up for the Dream 18 Action Sports Jax. Dream18.com is the place to go next Monday at Southampton. Not this Monday, next Monday at Southampton. Donato's Pizza will be there as well. You can visit Donato's Pizza, Jax Beach and Mandarin, Donatos.com. And don't forget to use Brent20 and save 20% off your order. Nobody but Nimnicht. Our family has purchased 6 vehicles from Nimnicht Buick GMC. The #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville has lots of inventory to choose from with their best price guarantee. Who gives you top dollar for your trade? Nobody but Nimnicht. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierras or get rates as low as 1.9%. You know, I'm a truck guy. GMC Sierra, my trim level is an SLT. This one's an Elevation. Pretty good looking color as well. So here at Nimnicht Buick GMC, you have a lot to pick from. My father-in-law, he drives this, an Enclave, so I feel like that GMC in the family. 2025 is coming around the corner, which means it's almost time to close out those 2024s this summer. You can schedule a test drive at NimnichtBuickGMC.com, and while you're there, check your trade value and customize your payment options. Nimnicht is there for you, even on Sundays. So, who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? The answer's simple. Nobody but Nimnicht. Your friends in the car business since 1941. GMC. We are professional grade.
It's hard to put a price on comfort, especially when you use that comfort on a daily basis. But if we're going to put a price on it, how does the lowest price guaranteed sound? Furniture Source is going to have the biggest brands, whether it's Ashley, Casper, or Tempur-Pedic, and once again, it's going to be the guaranteed lowest price in Jacksonville. Right now, my friends at Furniture Source are going to give you the ultimate hookup because all month long, they're making their inventory wholesale price. Check out their markdowns up to 50% off. And remember, since it's Furniture Source, you're getting the guaranteed lowest prices in Florida or your money back. Don't have the cash on you right now? It's no worry. Shop endless options to suit your style and budget and enjoy 36 months off with no interest financing. Why use your money when you can use theirs? Whether it's beds, couches, tables, or chairs, Furniture Source is going to have exactly what you're looking for. Shop the lowest prices in Jacksonville guaranteed. Find the location nearest you at FurnitureSourceJax.com.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Financing options available with approved credit. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
The friendliest golf course in town, the Golf Club at Southampton. Local golfers have no shortage of options when it comes to picking a course to play here in Northeast Florida year-round. Yet time and time again, I find myself here at the Golf Club at Southampton. Easy to get to off 210 in St. Johns County. It's family-owned and operated and renowned for being one of the area's most player-friendly. That's just one of the reasons we hold the Action Sports Jacks Dream 18 charity golf tournament here each fall. The Mark McCumber design layout is great for all skill levels of golfers, from the guys who bomb it a mile on the range to golfers like me who are just happy to put it in the fairway, which Southampton has very accommodating fairways. And if you need new clubs, come down to the pro shop. They'll fit you up and get you a nice new set, like they did for me. For more information on membership or to book a tee time and see for yourself, head over to golfsouthampton.com or call the clubhouse at 904-287-7529. The Golf Club at Southampton. It's the official home of the Action Sports Jacks Dream 18. Make it your home for golf too.
New to town or always been in town, everyone is always looking for a good pizza place. Our place is Donato's Pizza. We love it and still do love it. When I tell my family I'm coming to Donato's, they say, wait a minute, you got to order some for us. So this is not all for me. Let me tell you what the Martineaus get when we put an order in. Well, pepperoni pizza, we usually get more than one of these. And then there's the works, a little bit of everything. And then this is the pizza that can be polarizing for some out there. I don't know why. Hawaiian pizza, some love it, some don't. At Donato's, you're going to love it, especially with that cinnamon sprinkled on top. Try the pizza my family likes or try your favorite. Right now, you can use the code BRENT20 and get 20% off your order. Every viewer and listener is important to us, and at Donato's Pizza, every piece is important. From fresh ingredients to the dedicated team members and you, the valued customer. Donato's Pizza, where every piece comes together for a winning combination. Jack's Beach and Mandarin locations. Donato's Pizza, every piece is important.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
Well, the first four opponents for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and pretty good, right? That's what we've been talking about. That's how good it looks. And the points per game for the Bills and Dolphins. Now, you got to believe the Bills will score less points this year. The Dolphins might score more. Who knows? Now that they're in sync even more in that offense, which can be a tricky offense. And look at the win-loss record. You can't hide from it. It's pretty, it's real. 22 points a game for the Jags last year, which ironically is the same as Houston. Now, they finished a game apart, so that shouldn't be that ironic. And it does show me this. What we said yesterday on the show, I think toward the end of the show, maybe you weren't, it was Kim and I, and I think Austin had left. Houston had the third easiest schedule last year. This year, they have the fourth hardest schedule. Last year, Houston went 7-3 in one-score games. Well, that shows it, doesn't it? I mean, they weren't dominating people. It was 22.2 a game, which means they were in a lot of tight ball games. And crazy enough, as a young football team in some spots, you would say they were able to pull off the W's. Now, they weren't completely young. They actually had a lot of older players on that roster, and now they've traded them in for some other older players like Mixon and Diggs and Danielle Hunter. So, fascinating look at what's still to come in this first month of the year. Starts with Miami Dolphins. Brent Martineau Austen Lane, Jason Hamby. All right, you degenerates, it's time to help you out. How many bets can you drop for us in Vegas, Austen Lane?
Man, I mean, I can drop whatever you guys need me to drop. I still haven't dropped any bets myself yet, Brent. I've just been so busy with training, man. I mean, I guess it's a good, it's a good thing. It shows you how hard I'm working out here, but listen, it's not for a lack of effort. I'm just like, man, I don't feel like making that drive to Caesars right now or anything because I just want to try to get some rest. So haven't made any single bets yet, but, Sunday is my off day. So, and I am close to some casinos. So maybe Sunday will be the day we drop some prop bets or some spreads or something like that.
That's amazing that you've been there for as long as you have, and you haven't. Like I thought they had slot machines next to your bed in Vegas.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah, it actually would be a bad thing, but a good thing in a kind of a fun way. I've never been. I've been to Vegas for the first time coming up in December, believe it or not, which is crazy. Been a lot of places. Have never been to Vegas. So, all right, here's what I want to do. We're going to pick the division winners. We'll do that, and then the 3 wildcard teams, Super Bowl, and MVP. I'm going to leave it at that. If you guys want to do more, that's fine, but I'm going to leave it at that. The other thing that we have to do, we're starting this, we think it's kind of a fun game. We're going to pit our show against the Miller and Moulton show, against the Young and Norvell show, against Casey and Nick show on Saturday morning in this pick game. 3 college games, 3 NFL games. So here's the fun of it, is that we can argue back and forth and kind of come to a resolution. We're all on the same team here, the three of us, and we're trying to beat those knuckleheads. But if you guys tell me and get it wrong and we go like 1-5 and I lean with you guys, I'm going to hammer you on Monday or Tuesday when we reveal this thing, just to let you know. So the blame, we're going to be pointing fingers. This isn't going to be like your locker room when you wouldn't point across the hallway and tell everybody the offense stunk in 2012, Austen Lane. We're pointing across the locker room if you guys screw up the picks on me.
Listen, I understand, and let's not get it twisted here. This could either end really great for us and bring us together in a bonding experience, or this could have the opposite effect, and this could be an absolute nightmare in terms of playing the blame game, pointing fingers of everything. So, I mean, this seems like a good idea until it's not, but I'm ready to embrace it. I'm ready to do the work.
I like it. Let's do it. So here's what we have. These are our collective picks, 3 college, 3 NFL, and well, I'm going to get them for you. I actually want to tweet it out so everybody can play along with us too, and then we will get our opinions on it. All right, so we start with Texas and Michigan. So Texas is 7.5-point favorite at Michigan. That's a touchdown plus on the road. Michigan doesn't look like they have a quarterback. Well, what's interesting here, Hamby, is they've got a pretty good defense at Michigan now.
Give me the Longhorns and the points.
Easy, huh?
Really? Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to – if I got to take that spread, I am 100% taking Texas. I think it's going to be a 17-point ball game late. I'm not saying they're going to, jump ahead, but I have no confidence in Warren, Michigan's quarterback. I have no confidence in that head coach who sat around and watched that QB competition all offseason long and still trotted that guy out and threw, I guess, 125 yards against I don't know who last week, but a no-name school. And I guess, you can't go too much off one game off a no-namer or a lesser opponent, I should say. But Texas looks ridiculous. They have the guys up front to dominate. And, I'm taking Texas on the road.
All right, Hammy, we're going to be here until 4 o'clock if you break down the Texas and Michigan game that long. I mean, you have your own show called the Stadium Pulse at 9 o'clock if you want to talk that much about Texas and Michigan. Austin, we're going to let this kid go with it. Texas 7.5. We all right with that?
You know what? So, I mean, I'll try to keep it quick here. They looked kind of lackadaisical in the first half against Fresno State. I was watching that game a lot. And then I'm thinking like, okay, well, can you really judge a team by just one game in week 1? And then I look at what Florida State did, and it's like, well, maybe you can judge a team week 1 based on how they did, in terms of that. So is Michigan who we think they are, or are they going to play better now with a bigger opponent? Do they overlook Fresno State, still beat them by 20? I'll go ahead and lean with Hamby here, and I'll go ahead and take Texas.
Yeah, I don't mind the play. When I saw it was 5.5, and I really liked the play there. But again, at the big house, and here's the thing: underdogs have been doing pretty well, I think, in college football from a point standpoint. They haven't been necessarily winning, but I think they've been covering some of these. Is the trend? So I'll go with you, Texas, though, because there's blowout potential in this. Texas looks like they might be really good. So we'll go there with you, and complain about it later.
I can't wait till about 2:15 when my phone starts to get blown up.
All right. How about Tennessee, North Carolina State? 7.5 in this one for Tennessee. North Carolina State, Austin, they struggled a little bit last week. They almost lost to who was that? Was that Old Dominion they almost lost to?
No, it was Western Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina almost lost to Old Dominion. Western Carolina actually hung with North Carolina State for a bit. Is Tennessee the real deal, I think, is the question.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the biggest question now. Is Nick in the daytime around?
No, he's not.
I'm just wondering. Okay, so he's not. Yeah, listen, man, like, I always feel like when we talk about Tennessee, it's the same thing every single year. We build them up, and then they let us down. I tend to give Tennessee the edge here, Brent, because I'm not sold in the Wolfpack either. So, man, yeah.
You said it's 7.5?
7.5, yeah.
7.5.
What do you like, Hamby?
Yeah, I'm taking Tennessee. I'm not impressed with NC State quarterback, especially because UCF was looking at him to try and bring him in potentially. And I remember watching that first half that they had last week against Western Carolina and be like, man, I'm glad they didn't. And I'm a believer in Nico, so I'll take Tennessee in the points.
Well, I was going to say, I got a quarterback. Quarterback looks good, so I'd go with that. I'm okay with Tennessee here. I was thinking that right out of the gates. YB400 says SEC again here. YB400, isn't everybody in the SEC? I feel like everybody's in the SEC now. So you got to pick SEC
it
games.
Just means more.
Right. Colorado and Nebraska. Now, Nebraska's a touchdown favorite here against Colorado. How do we feel about that, Hamby?
They got Raiola. And that's, former Georgia 5-star top quarterback with Lagway, and then he transfers or flips his commitment to Nebraska. In my personal opinion, Raiola's going to be the guy who takes down Colorado, and he's going to be the new media darling that, all the ESPN guys are saying, oh, my gosh, he's, the next Heisman sleeper. And I like Nebraska. I don't think other than Travis Hunter, Colorado has anybody on defense to stop him.
Yeah, what do you Colorado I want to pick here, Austin, but their defense is scary bad.
No, exactly. And listen, I'm with Hamby on this one. You watched a Colorado team play NDSU last week where new offensive scheme, new offensive, game plan and everything, and they couldn't stop NDSU. And this is an FCS school. I get they're a highly touted FCS school, but still an FCS school nonetheless. You feel like the offensive firepower is going to even be more to Nebraska. And, to me, it's not just a scheme thing from Colorado the first game. It's just you don't have the talent back there. You just simply don't. So I lean with Nebraska as well. I think they're just the offensive firepower is going to be there. And Nebraska, I think they can play some sort of defense, unlike NDSU, who there's a lot of long passes to Hunter and everything. So go ahead and give me Nebraska.
Oh, by the way, Nebraska, I think will be able to punch in their mouth the way Matt Rule wants to play too, the way Nebraska's always played. I'm trying to disconnect that from my mind, but Colorado in the trenches is terrible, terrible. So, or at least they looked at last week. So YB400 says Colorado. I was thinking that too, but I like you guys in Nebraska. I'll go with you. I'm not going to trump any of those. All right, let's go to the NFL. Rams and Lions, 3.5. This is a fun one. I'll jump in, guys. I'm not all on the Lions train. Everybody's picking them the Super Bowl. I think that falls off the tracks at some point still. There's something in the back of my mind, and maybe that's a little bit like a barrier, right? Because the Lions have been bad, and are they going to really be good for 3 years? There's a little of that probably in my psyche. But I do think it's a big party right now in Detroit when it comes to the Lions, and I think they'll party pretty good on Sunday night with that being a home game, Austin. I don't mind dropping that 3.5 on the hook.
Same. Yeah. I mean, I think Dan Campbell, with his coaching prowess, his intensity, he always gets his guys ready for week one. You saw it last year against the Kansas City Chiefs, especially being at home now. Expectations are really high. Yeah, I think I'm taking the Lions here to cover that 3.5.
You all right there, Hamby?
Yep. I'm typing all this up. I'm agreeing with the sentiment of week one. They seem to be ready. So I'll take the Lions -3.
All right, this one's tricky, guys. Cowboys at Browns. What do you think here, Hamby? Cowboys, could they come out of the gates quick? Will there be a little bit of, CeeDee Lamb wasn't there most of the camp. There's a little rust. The other thing about this one that's fascinating is the Browns are a very good team at home, kind of a different team on the road. So they are home in this football game, and they are favored, by the way, by 2.5 points.
Browns are 2.5-point favorites at home. I'm actually, I feel like I actually kind of want to take the Browns in this one. I feel like we've taken a lot of our road teams, and I don't know if I can take too many more, especially week one. I'm not confident, though.
Austin, I do not like picking against the Cowboys in that offense. It can be so explosive, but is this the time to do it?
Yeah, this seems like the game where the obvious answer would be the Cowboys, but then maybe Vegas knows something that we don't. Keep in mind, Nick Chubb isn't playing either. I mean, all my instincts are saying obviously go with the Cowboys here. I think CeeDee Lamb being, out isn't going to be anything. He should go right in there and fill the role. What's the running game going to look like for the Cowboys, though? And what is, can they kind of enforce their will a little bit on a very tough Cleveland Browns defense? Brent, once again, all my instincts are saying pick the Cowboys,
but with this spread, it scares me that Vegas does something that we don't. I'm actually going to lead the Browns here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a storyline here, okay, for both teams. I'm going to say panic button already in Dallas, and the Mike McCarthy seat's going to like jump and all the odds of being fired right off the rip of the season. Why not? Let's get the burners going early. And then Deshaun Watson plays well, and he becomes like an instant story of week one, where it's like, oh, he's back. And Cleveland's dangerous, and they're coming down to Jacksonville, and that's going to be a storyline. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And if we think they're going to win, then a field goal's nothing. I'll take. We'll go with Cleveland there. All right, Jags Dolphins, guys. Austin, what do you think here? 3.5 points. That could be a difference maker now, whether it's a field goal game or 4+. How do you feel about the Jags going down to Miami?
I can see this going so many ways, Brent.
I know it.
Because if I let the pass be any kind of indicator, I'm going to think of this could be like a San Fran game where the motion's too much. They have too many weapons. You can't stay with them. It's going to be a blowout. Trevor's going to play outside himself, trying to make some plays. There's going to be turnovers. But Brent, the consensus this year is it just feels different. It just feels different. So if that's what we're going to say, and in Ryan Nielsen I trust, can they keep it within 3? Yeah, go ahead and give me the Jaguars. Getting off to not saying they're going to win the game, but I think they keep it competitive.
What do you think, Abby? You like that?
Yeah, it's hard to. Man, that 0.5 is big.
It is kind of big.
It's huge. I feel. I could see this again in so many ways. But with that 0.5 getting that hook, I can't not take the Jags.
Yeah, I mean, why not take them right off the rip here? I mean, we'll probably homer up quite a bit on the Jags. I think there's a way to do that. I don't disagree with what Austin says. I think there is a trend here that Shanahan-style team can give you problems, right? That Shanahan-style offense can give you problems. But there's also, some thought that, the Texans' offense didn't go up and down the field on the Jags last year, twice. It was special teams that cost them that football game here at home, and then the Jags beat them and held them till I think it was 21, right? 24-21, something like that. So I think Miami, I think this is a shootout most likely, but I think I actually kind of feel like the Jags can outscore them. I don't think Miami's defense is any great shakes. So at the very least, I think they could keep it close. We'll take the 3 points. We'll go the Jags right off the rip. So we've got Texas, Tennessee, Nebraska, the Lions, the Browns, and the Jags. So everybody on the left.
We have one home team.
Yeah, that's weird. But, I mean, and favorites on the road, which is a little dangerous. The only thing that you have right there that I didn't have, at least, was Nebraska 7.5. We've got them at 7. If you check the lines, we put the lines out on Wednesday. So whatever we're doing, guys, is for Wednesday lines. Okay. Because we got to get them to the other shows. So if the lines move, we don't move with it. Just so everybody knows. So we'll put it all on a graphic after Casey's show tomorrow. We'll get everybody else's, and we'll see if we can beat those sons of guns. All right, let's do some more picking. Let's go, Austin. You want to go up and down the AFC division winners and wild card teams? You ready to do that?
Yeah, sure. Let's get it. How do we go like each division? We each say who's going to win it, then we go from there. Or how are we going to do this?
I'd rather you just go right up and go AFC East to North to South to West, and then your 3 wild card teams, and then we can switch off for the NFC.
Okay, gotcha. So AFC East, in terms of the winner, go ahead and give me the Buffalo Bills.
Whoa!
Wow!
Whoa!
Seriously?
Yep.
You serious want to do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's going to be one of my big shockers of my picks here. Okay, so then keep going.
Oh yeah,
keep
keep
going.
Give
your picks.
Nope, you go.
I mean, why don't you guys go then too, so that way Henry can write it down.
Nah, it's too much back and forth. It's better for him to write down Austin has these 7 picks.
Okay. Gotcha. AFC West, go ahead and give me the Chiefs. That's pretty much chalk, obviously, but AFC
they got off
North,
to a good start.
Go ahead and give me the
Go ahead and give me the Ravens with AFC North, even though they didn't look the best. Offensive line could be questioned, but I'm still taking the Ravens. And then everybody go ahead and earmuff it, okay? But for the AFC South, I am taking the Houston Texans.
It was kind of interesting, right? With the Ravens, their offensive line, people were going to question. Just an unusual thing that you would say about the Ravens, but a little bit after last night. All right. So those are 4. You have 3 wild card teams.
I do have 3 wild card teams. Go ahead and give me the Jacksonville Jaguars. Go ahead and give me the Cincinnati Bengals. And go ahead and give me the New York Jets.
Ooh. Like it. I like it.
All right. We got to go NFC.
No, don't do NFC Austin yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
But you guys can't follow my rules very well.
Sorry,
I'll do this while you're typing.
No, definitely not.
Hey, this is being recorded, Hamby, so if you need to go back and look at stuff, you can.
I'm aware.
Just say.
Thanks, Brent.
I can replay it all weekend, actually. Yep. It's on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
Or you could just go like 2 hours and 35 minutes in on YouTube. Just scroll through.
Thanks.
And you can find it.
Thank you.
Just let you know. Just give you a little tip. Pro tip to the kids.
Here we go.
Here on how this stuff works. All right. I'll go, so I'll give you a little bit of time.
AFC East.
AFC East, I have the New York Jets winning. The AFC North, I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning. The AFC West, as much as I would love to pick against the Chargers, I can't. So I'll go. The Chiefs. I can't. I'll go the Chiefs.
Like the heavily favored Chargers. Yes.
Yeah. The South. Hell yeah, I'm going with the Jags. That schedule is going to be a factor, and the Jags win the South this year. Host a playoff game at home. Now, who will they be hosting in that wild card round? I think the Miami Dolphins. I think the Baltimore Ravens. And I think the Denver Broncos.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Ooh, I was close to going with the Denver Broncos too, Brent.
Those are my AFC teams.
And that ain't happening.
Chalk doesn't happen all the time, man.
I know.
By the way, under my thing, I think that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 teams, 4 new teams in the AFC playoffs, if I did that correctly. The Miami Dolphins make the playoffs last year? They did, right?
Yes.
Yeah, at 11-6. Yeah.
Yep. They lost to the Chiefs the first round.
Yeah. So it'd be four new teams in the AFC.
So you do not have the Texans making the playoffs?
I do not.
Okay.
Don't
I guess the other surprise team out of that I don't have, potentially, I guess the 3 surprises would be the Houston Texans, the Buffalo Bills, and the Cleveland Browns.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I will go AFC East. I will take the Dolphins.
Oh, we got 3 different winners in the East. Yep. I like it.
I'll take the Dolphins there.
There you go.
North, I'll take the Bengals. West, I'll take the Chiefs. Nobody's competing with them. South, give me the Jiggy Jags. I'm taking them at 11-6.
Homer up.
Yeah, we got 2.
We should have like the panic button. We got a homer up button.
Yeah.
Sunshine and rainbows.
Right. Wildcard teams. Give me the Ravens. Give me the Jets, and give me the Texans.
All right, not bad. I like it. All right, let's go to the NFC. Austin, what do you have?
All right, NFC. Give me out of the East. Give me the Eagles. Out of the West, I go back and forth with this one. I got it between the Rams and the 49ers, but go and give me the 49ers. I think they're too talented.
Wow, you give the Rams that much love. Interesting.
I do. NFC North. Give me the Lions. Sorry, Green Bay fans. Sorry, everybody back home. And then out of the NFC South, go ahead and give me the Atlanta Kirk Cousins.
Let's go. Atta baby.
That baby.
Three
right.
wild card teams, Brent.
Good luck.
All right, we're gonna have the Rams. We're gonna have the Packers. And sorry, Dallas Cowboys, but we're going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Be pretty wild. Like the one thing about the Dallas Cowboys, they usually do make the playoffs. They don't win, but they usually make the playoffs. So
correct.
Pretty interesting. All right. I will go as well here. I will go with the Cowboys winning the East. I will go with the Packers winning the North. I will say the Bucks win the South. And in the West, I got to go with the Niners. Another team that I'd rather not go with, but I got to go with. In the wild card round, I'm going to take the Falcons. I'm going to take the Lions. And I'm going to take the Bears.
Dang, you like these sleeper teams sneaking in that last playoff slot.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
It's hard to get 3 teams in, but it does happen. It can happen, especially with that 7th one now. So the North is strong this year, I'm going to say.
All right. I'm also going to leave the Eagles out of the playoffs and take the Cowboys to win the division. And I'm going to take the Packers to win the North. In the South, go ahead and give me the Kirk Cousins. Give me the Falcons. Can't go against the 49ers quite yet in the West. So in the wild card, that leaves me with the Rams. That leaves me with the Lions. And as my last wild card team, I am going. I'm going to take.
Did zero homework, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks.
I like it. 3 from the West, a little different. Want to be different there. I was stressing to be different. I like it.
I was trying.
All right, Austin, what do you have in the Super Bowl?
Listen, if you believe in script writing, you would say it's going to be the Packers versus the Jets.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't believe in script writing. I believe in the best teams will play, and obviously I have the Kansas City Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. And I think last night kind of established that they're still the real deal. And Brent, you owe Chris Jones an apology for calling him too old. And on the NFC side of things, I'm taking the team that no one's really talking about, that kind of looked at themselves in the mirror a little bit, brought in some new coaches to change some things around. And if everyone's going to be healthy, I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL. I'm taking the Eagles.
Dang, that makes me second guess everything. I just left them out of the playoffs. Oh, boy.
Ask Austin how confident he is. Just tell him to go put like 5 bills on it in Vegas. Would you do that?
Nope, sorry, Brent. Have to go train. Don't have to do that right now. And then my Super Bowl winner is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. The first time in NFL history that a team has won 3 straight Super Bowls. And Andy Reid, I trust.
Wow. Can I homer up to the degree I want to homer up here?
I was just thinking it.
Hey, listen, I want to be the guy. This is what happens with the Jags. How many times have you had good teams in Jacksonville? 2018, 2023, and this year that you could feel confident about. And so you want to be like, hey, I'll be the guy that picks them this year. That's the one I'll roll with. Like, why not, right? Roll with it. I actually think the best team in the AFC is the New York Jets, believe it or not. And so I'm going to just go with that gut, even though things don't usually happen well with the Jets. I'm going to say I think Rodgers has more game than people think and give him credit for. And I'm going to tell you who I think is going to be better than people think. I picked them to win the East. I think the Cowboys can do it. I think the NFC is pretty open for business. And I think there'll be some beating each other up. Can they get hot at the right time? Can they be healthy? Why not? Imagine that Super Bowl ratings. Jets and the Cowboys be pretty good. I think it's on Fox 30 this year in February in New Orleans. So, and I would go with the Jets winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, since that's not happening, I feel better about taking the Jags over and up.
Real quick, Brent, do you buy a little bit of like the rumors and the the smoke that the Jets are kind of in disarray right now with like Aaron Rodgers and how they feel about him, or do you think it's all just crap? It's not real.
To be honest with you, man, that when I read that, first of all, I think you could believe anything about Rodgers. He's a different cat. But I also think when I read that, that seemed like such a leak to me, the way it was presented. Like a leak from another team, from another executive to kind of throw them off, that kind of thing. Or just give an opinion. And you know this about the NFL. I could give you 15 different stories this year I've heard about the Jacksonville Jaguars internally or this or that, right? And I just think so many of those get debunked or not strong or just like a hearsay thing. So I don't really buy that with Rodgers. I actually thought this team really kind of, if he didn't get hurt, I think they would have really played hard for Rodgers last year. And I just think they're super talented, man. I think people miss, the Jets are really good. The thing people say is because Rodgers has been hurt, like he might not be as good as he used to be. But what if he is? We see old players be as good as they used to be. LeBron James, Tom Brady, two most recent examples. So if he is even 80% of what he's been in the NFL to this point, damn, man, they're going to be good. They got the running game. They got the passing game. I mean, they're better in the trenches offensively. They're really good on defense. I mean, really, really good on defense. And you know what else about this? And this may be a little biased. I'm a big Saleh fan. I think Saleh is a good coach. And I think stuff's gone sideways at times in New York, but I think he's good. And I'll give you one other thing. At some point this season, my guess is Hassan Reddick's going to stop missing money and smarten up and get in there and play. And they might be able to add him to the well on defense. So, yeah, I liked it. I think it's going to come together for the Jets after falling all apart last year. I think you get a little lucky sometimes and unlucky sometimes. So, Hamby, what do you have going to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, this is if you wanna what do they call it? Hedge. This is the one to not take. But I am a believer in Jordan Love. I'm a firm believer in Jordan Love. I don't think he's overhyped. I am a big fan of that defense and all the guys they have, and that's not just because they're trotting out a number of Georgia players. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl over the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wow.
Yeah, I like it. Atta baby, Abby. Go get it. We'll give you some props if that happens. Here's the question. If the Jags go to the Super Bowl, how disappointing is it if they don't win? We'll talk about that in February, guys. That'll be a good show.
No, I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, listen, I think if you go to the Super Bowl in Jacksonville, you've exceeded all expectations. Trevor's the guy. Doug Peterson's here, hopefully for a while, and then maybe you pass the reins on to Press Taylor to take over. Yeah, like you're gonna be disappointed, obviously, but I think that you're so infatuated then with the future where you're willing to take that L.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I get it too. Like everybody would sign up for that right now, but great expectations bring great disappointment, and with that comes even if you make it to the playoffs, right? You're still very disappointed. I would say that when the Jags lost to the Chiefs is about as the least amount of disappointment you'd ever have in a postseason loss for a fan base and a franchise, because it was so unexpected to get there when they were 3-7. It did feel like gravy. It did feel like we're on to something. It's such a change and departure from what it's been, and look where it's going. I get it. But now in year 3, I feel a little bit different. I think it would sting a hell of a lot more if you go to the playoffs and lose at any time in the playoffs. I don't think just the playoffs from a like a where are you going standpoint is a big deal. But I think from a fan base being pissed off at the end of the season, I don't think the playoffs are good enough, quite frankly. I think wherever it ends is going to be major disappointment because this team is one of the best teams this franchise has probably ever put out there on a field. I'm not sure it's the best, like Shad Khan said, but it's super talented.
Brent, I'm not going to lie, though, man. After that Chiefs game, like, yeah, I get you're still kind of riding that momentum of, having like one of the biggest comebacks in franchise history against the Chargers and everything. But I'm not going to lie. When Patrick Mahomes went down and Chad Henne came in, I initially thought like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
We're going back to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, the magic run is here.
The stars have aligned.
I get you.
Like
I
that's
get you.
especially what I thought. So then when Chad Henne came out and kind of did his thing a little bit, I was a little more like, it hurt more, right? Because it wasn't like Patrick Mahomes went out there and threw 5 touchdowns against you. He's the best quarterback in the league. No, you got lucky. Mahomes goes out and you still lose. So to me, it was still kind of a shock, and it was still kind of heartbreaking just because of how it transpired.
Yeah, that's a good call. Hey, that's fun. We'll see where everything lands. And one more thing, MVP of the league. Who do you have, Austin?
Oh man, I didn't really give this any thought. Ham, you want to go first?
I mean, if I'm taking the Packers and the Jags in the Super Bowl, go ahead and give me Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence.
Well, you only get one, so
Or
Jordan Love, you
sorry.
would say.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Give me Jordan Love, and Trevor Lawrence is like a front runner.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
I mean, yeah, I guess if I have the Chiefs winning the whole thing, and I get Isaiah Pacheco's really come on now, but I guess I'll take the chalk here and go Patrick Mahomes.
Well, here's the deal, too. Mahomes, I say this, only has two MVPs, right? I mean, he's won 3 Super Bowls, but he only has 2 MVPs, I believe. So he could kind of keep growing the mantle. I'm going to take Dak. If I think the Cowboys are going to do it, I think he's going to have a monster year. And by the way, he's been in this running before, many times, whether he got hurt or couldn't stay through or they just didn't win enough. But Dak has the numbers, like every year, to be in this kind of conversation. So I don't think it's actually that far-fetched for him to have this monster year and then make some sick bank at the end of it if he doesn't get signed in the interim for the Dallas Cowboys. Hey, just catching you up on Jalen Ramsey, by the way, who obviously got that contract today. Cameron Wolf reports after stretch, Jalen Ramsey did individual drills with his fellow cornerbacks and CB coach. Sometimes he do the drills twice in a row as he catches up on practice reps. Looked good backpedaling in 5 to 10 yard stints. I think all signs are I think with that kind of news, I think he's going to play. I think the Jags are preparing for him to play, but I do think it's a big difference if he doesn't play. That's losing an elite player, Austin, and you're dropping back to some unknowns in the Miami secondary.
No, without a doubt. I mean, that's going to be kind of the biggest thing that I'll be watching, for tomorrow and then up until Sunday is if Ramsey plays, because that defense will be drastically different if he's not on the field, And once again, like if that's the case, then yeah, fire up Brian Thomas Jr., fire up Gabe Davis, fire up Christian Kirk, because, Ramsey can only do so much, but what he can do is hold a receiver to minimal yardage, minimal receptions, at least one receiver. And if that's not the case, yeah, you like that even more for the Jaguars. But the biggest thing is, and we talked about this, Brent, when you were, down at the stadium. I mean, the fact that they gave him the money now in Miami and, made him the highest paid corner, it really makes you wonder, like, you expect him to play that because you're not going to invest in somebody at this point in the season and not have him play. It makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was kind of curious about that myself. I also think it's you try to get business done before the start of the season either way, but I think that dynamic is kind of wild, right? If you were going to sign him to that big deal and say, yeah, he's not playing Sunday, kind of odd. But they do have a huge game coming up on Thursday in a division that could be wide open and very competitive. So that's the more important game coming up next Thursday for them and the Miami Dolphins. So you want him healthy for that one specifically, but you could also say they need him more in this game because the Jags wide receivers are better than the Buffalo Bills. So you might be able to match up with the Bills a little bit better without Ramsey if something were to happen than maybe even the Jaguars if you're just looking at the matchup, not the division and all that other stuff. The other thing, what else was I going to get to? Oh, one other thing about picks. We always go down to Best Bet St. Augustine. Will be a Best Bet Jacksonville. I'm going to do a Best Bet of the weekend. So this is good for like your Survivor League. How about that? Like a Survivor League? Maybe I'll see if I can get through the whole year. I'll be pretty pissed off if I get through the whole year, win it all, and never entered into one. But I'm going with my Survivor pick for the first weekend.
Are you doing you can't pick a team twice?
Can't do it twice, no.
Okay.
Yeah, can't pick a team twice. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills in week 1 over the Cardinals. I think the Bills are going to be a tricky one to use throughout the rest of the year. Week 1 is already very tricky. At least they're at home in this game. And I think the Cardinals are very mediocre. So I'll go with the Bills. That's my best bet. And don't forget to come down to Best Bet St. Augustine next week. Next Thursday, we'll be down there live with the show, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Come on out, hang out with us at Best Bet St. Augustine. Have some lunch. Great place to be. Watch TVs. Go all weekend for the college football and the NFL. You can play a little poker like Hamby likes to do. Play a little of the games like I like to do. Watch some TV. Get some food and drink as well down there at Best Bet St. Augustine. All right, guys, this is about it. We've got a few minutes to go. But the NFL weekend is here. Who do you like tonight, Austin, in that game?
Oof, man, go ahead and give me the Eagles. I haven't gone to the Super Bowl, so I'm a big believer in the new coordinator. I'm a big believer in Jalen Hurts when he's healthy. So go ahead and give me the Eagles. And Brent, I just want to let you know, like, I get you picking the Bills and everything at home, but just to let you know, in the past, if the past is any kind of indicator, when you pick against Kyler Murray, Brent, it doesn't end up good for you. But go ahead and pick against Kyler Murray again, because I guess we haven't learned our lessons yet.
Well,
it works out for you. But go ahead.
I've done these survivor pools in the past, and I have been bounced out. Like, I would say if I've done 5 of them, I've been bounced out twice in the first week. But guys, the first week is hard.
Endorsement for everyone following along.
First week's hard. Like, I love how we do this. Like, Vegas does. This is how Vegas makes money, fellas. Like, everybody wants to pick the favorites and the teams that think you're going to be good. Well, in week 1, that ain't how it works. Like, there's going to be some silly upsets. In fact, find me the silly upset in week 1. Now, there are a lot of lines that are like 3.5, 6.5. Like, I'll give you one. Seattle's a 6-point favorite, which is the second biggest favorite of the weekend. And I actually think, don't be surprised if the Broncos go there and win.
Sure.
So, like, from a line standpoint, that's a pretty good one.
No, I hear you, but like if I'm starting this off and I'm trying to get off on the good track here, and they play in a very hard division, I would take the Bengals and just go Bengals over the Patriots, lock it in. My first week, I know I'm good there.
Yeah. I'd agree. I almost did that, but I was like, but I want to use the Bengals probably later if you got to stretch this thing out.
I'll take the Saints.
The Saints as an upset pick or a
not an upset.
Pick? Oh,
I see. An easy pick.
I see. Yeah.
4-point favorites at home against the Panthers. Good time to use them if you're probably never going to use them again.
I'll give you 2 games that I think are sneaky upset picks. I don't know if they're sneaky or not, but I think I'm interested to see how the Commanders come out and play. Quinn's a good coach. He's been there before. What about Jaden Daniels? We don't know. Mm-hmm. They've got weapons. Like, they've got players now. That defensive side of the football, when Quinn's the guy in charge of that defense, I know he didn't look good in that playoff game against the Packers, but overall, his resume's been good. And if this kid can play at all, and he can put on a show early on, the Commanders over the Bucs, which I think is going to be a pretty low-scoring game because the Bucs defense is really good, that could be a nice early upset if you're looking for one. And then the other one is this, the Colts and the Texans. The Colts are underdogs at home.
Right.
And I think I read somewhere like home dogs in the opening week are like really good. So it's going to be that's a game that I think could go either way. Now, I didn't give you my 2 cents on Packers-Eagles. I think the Packers are going to win this game. I think the Eagles are going to run into some stuff. It's going to be it for Sirianni. It's going to kind of blow up.
Mm-hmm.
And which obviously is completely different than Austin thinks. All right, Austin, have a great weekend, man. Enjoy the games. Get some good work in. Train hard.
Will do, man. Hopefully we'll talk to you guys next week after a big dub for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to break it down on Monday. We'll be in Miami with the team. We've got an NFL special tonight at 7 o'clock on CBS 47. We've got 4 hours of the Blitz at 8 o'clock tonight as well. Keep it locked on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network and have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Jags and Dolphins on CBS 47, 1 o'clock on Sunday.